Yeah.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order. This is a City of Flagler Beach budget workshop. Today is Wednesday, August 5th. The time is 5:30 p.m. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep this meeting going either until all items are complete or when we hit 8:30, and then it'll cut off. Is that good with everybody?
Yep.
All right, Mayor, if you can lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to follow that by a moment of silence to honor our veterans, members of the armed forces, and first responders.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, well, everybody's getting seated. If you all could take a moment to look at your cell phones, make sure they are on silent, vibrate, or turned off, please. I'd like to welcome the City of Flagler Beach staff and all the members of the public. And that was kind of tongue-in-cheek, wasn't it? We don't have that many. And City Manager, why don't you take us through an intro?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the City Commission, and staff as well, as you noted. I have a slightly modified presentation from what was originally presented to you. The budget at this point is still a somewhat living document. We revise the numbers as state share revenue comes in and things like that. So I'd like to go through the slides as an intro to budget. So thank you for your patience. Wrong way. All right. I got to follow along on mine here too. Wrong way. So as you can see from this initial slide, this one is, if there are any changes to these slides that are from the slides that were originally shared with you, they will be highlighted in bright yellow. So I will draw your attention to those. So the city's gross taxable value increased by approximately 6.75%, but the adjusted taxable value went up by approximately 3%. The difference between the gross taxable value and the adjusted taxable value is you take out new construction, improvements, and things like that from the gross taxable value. And one of the notable additions that was taken out is you also take out annexations. So the annexation of Randa Bay and Summertown is included in the gross taxable value, but because it was new this year, it's taken out of the adjustable taxable value. Basically, adjustable taxable value, for those of you familiar with retail sales, it's basically like same store concepts from the previous year. That's what the adjustable taxable value is. The budget is based upon maintaining the same millage rate, which is 5.4500 mils. So I think will be the third or fourth year we've kept it at level, and that is expected to generate $7.3 million approximately in property tax revenues, which is an increase of a little over $200,000. So this change has a lot of changes on it, mainly because we got some new information from the state. So we are in a unique situation that hasn't been seen in over a decade, in that property values are going down, so the rollback rate is actually a roll-up rate. So our rollback rate is higher than our current millage rate, so the rollback rate is 5.5 mils, 5.5521. That would generate $7.4 million in revenues. To go to that, that's the highest we can go, or you can go, with 3 votes on the City Commission. The proposed millage rate, as I indicated, is 5.45 mils. This will result in a decrease in revenue over last year of approximately, or a decrease from the rollback rate of about $136,000, and it is the equivalent of a nearly 2% tax cut to the property owners in Flagler Beach, 1.87%. If you wanted to go higher, which is difficult because you already have set the tentative millage rate, If you wanted to go to a maximum supermajority, the highest you go with 4 votes, you could go all the way up to 6.1 mils, which generates almost another $750,000. I don't see that as even in the realm of discussion, so we're just going to move on from that. So, what is the impact of that? So I randomly picked 5 city commissioners and 1 city manager from the city of Flagler Beach. To try and keep it somewhat anonymous, I only refer to these people by their initials. So, this is...
Not obvious at all.
So this demonstrates the trend that's going on. So I've got the values there in 2025. So DM, who I probably know, the market value of his house was in 2025, this is the last row, $634,000. The taxable value of the property was $261,000. The taxable value is actually, I use the taxable value because if I added the assessed value, the numbers would get too small. Taxable value, you actually deduct your 2 homestead exemptions from that. So the assessed value of my property, DM's property, is approximately $100,000 more than that. That will be the number that gets affected if Amendment 3 passes. Then that shows what the properties on this chart, what they paid in their city taxes. Don't get into county taxes, don't get into school taxes. We can control these taxes here. So this is your city tax payment in 2025. So you see, we're all pretty much normal. One is excessively higher than the others because that was new construction. Okay? So now we look at the 2026 numbers, which are the numbers that will impact the budget we're discussing now. All of the property market values went down, but the taxable value continues to go up, which results in a modest change in your taxes. So you can see, for the most part, actually in all instances, the proposed millage would generate a tax bill of these 6 residents of $150 or less, and in most cases $50 or less for your new tax bill. So let me explain through this crude graphic of how that impacts. So what happens is people will start to have questions about, well, why are my taxes still going up when my property values are going down? This chart, this graphic demonstrates it. So what's happened is your market value has gone up for years and years, thankfully. The taxable value has not kept pace with that rate of increase because of Save Our Homes. It is capped at 3% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less. So you have this gap between the market value and the taxable value. What will happen is the taxable value will continue to go up until it intersects, which we hopefully it never does. But when your market value goes down, that'll end up impacting where the tax will. Then you'll see your taxable values start to go down. But until those 2 lines intersect, taxable values will continue to go up, which at least provides an explanation of why are my property values falling but my property taxes going up. Because you've had years and years of the benefit, and now the circumstances with that have changed. I have the slide here. It's hard to read. Ms. Overstreet has copies. This is how the general fund taxes are allocated to various price points of your taxes. The $1,500 column is the median tax for the city. If I went back to the slide that I showed you with the 6 of us, it showed that the median tax in 2025 was $1,431. So if you look at the 1,500 number, that's the median tax bill for the residents of Flagler Beach. Trying to find some more data. And what that now shows you is how your tax dollars are allocated across all the city departments that are funded by the general fund. So, for example, the most significant number is the police department. So 31% of your tax dollars goes to support the police department, which means if you're a median of $1,500, you're paying $469 a year, or $1.28 for 24/7 police coverage on a daily basis. So we have taxable values. I printed out, the city has 4,500 parcels in the city limits. 364 of those parcels pay absolutely no property taxes whatsoever, for a variety of reasons. They might be churches, they might be nonprofits, they could be 100% combat disabled veterans, so on and so forth. But there's 364 parcels. So we're left with approximately 4,100 parcels. So the top, I've got the sheet here that shows what the top 100 are, the middle 100, and the bottom 100 are. We're all somewhat safely in that middle 100. But the top 8 property taxpayers in the city pay over $10,000 in taxes, but that's somewhat skewed. The highest property tax payer in the city is the apartments where Commissioner Sherman lives. They pay $165,000 a year in taxes. Followed by the storage unit out on State Route 100 at the western city limits, then followed by Publix. Those are the three, 165,000, followed by 32,000, followed by 27,000, and then the two highest residential properties in town pay $16,000 just in city taxes, and the second one is $14,000 just in city taxes as well. We found there's a lot of parcels that, as you were doing this beach renourishment, some of the parcels where it's just the seaward side of A1A, those small parcels, they pay approximately $21 a year in taxes on their parcel between A1A and the water. But so this chart is to show you how your taxes are allocated across the different departments. All right, so this number changed, I think, because we added more, oh no, this number changed because you'll see further on in the capital, we deducted, based upon discussions with the facilities department, there's a $60,000 appropriation for a vehicle that we've taken that out of the budget. So that affected the miscellaneous revenues as well as the fund balance. Correct me if I'm missing something. This line here stays the same, or this page, this outlines the departmental expenditures by each line. This line here also reflects the, because what happened when we took the $60,000 out of the facilities department, we have a policy in place that we have to allocate 25% for emergency reserves. Well, by taking that $60,000 out, that affected the 25% rate, so that's why those two lines on that slide changed. So let's talk about the utility rates. So this budget includes a 20% increase on the base rates only for water, sewer, and stormwater and utility tax. This budget does not include a change for the commodity rates or the usage rates. We are keeping that the same. Our last rate analysis that was done in February of 2025 called for a 25% increase last year and a 25% increase this year. We actually had no increase. The budget that we presented and you approved last year had 0% increase on rates, commodity rates, usage rates, or base charges. This year, it's proposed 20%, again, somewhat underneath the proposed or the recommended rate increase of 25%. But again, that only affects the base rate. There's no change to the commodity rate. We are in the process, this rate study was presented by Florida Rural Water Association. The rate study that I've mentioned that called for the 25% increase each of the last 2 years did not incorporate the annexation of Miranda Bay and Summertown. we are waiting, and we should have that this month, a revised rate study that now includes Miranda Bay and Summertown. So this rate change, this may change, but again, that's part of the workshop. This is what the current budget or proposed budget is predicated upon. So Ms. Allen and Ms. Noble are working with Florida Rural Water to get the revised rate study done, but this was all predicated upon the earlier rate study as well as my recommendation that we don't need to take the rates as high as was recommended in the rate study. And this next page shows you what the commodity rates are. And again, those are going to be unchanged. What staff would like to do over the coming year is look at revising the tiers of the consumption. In that, is it possible for that with your base rate, you'll get some usage built into that. So maybe you get the first 1,000 gallons or 2,000 gallons included as part of your base rate. So staff will be working on that once we get the next rate study done, and then maybe add a different tier between the 2,000 and 8,000. But that's going to take some legwork by staff, but that's what we plan on doing once we get the rate study back from Florida Rural Water. But there's no proposed change to the usage rates for water and sewer. Again, the only change on the slide was capital. That was the $60,000 for the facilities truck, which is no longer in the budget. No changes to the special or enterprise fund slide that was presented to you originally. So the total city budget as proposed is approximately $72 million. So here's a quick summary of the general fund capital projects. You can see the facilities vehicle is withdrawn. There are no other changes in the facilities department. And that highlighted amount indicates the reduction of the $60,000. The building code facility maintenance, the only reason that's in yellow is the original slide simply said building code inspection. What that is intended to do is restore or rehabilitate the pilings that support the walkways by the Wickline, on the Wickline campus. Some of those have been damaged by vehicles backing into them. So that's what that is proposed at $25,000 to repair and rehabilitate the columns that are holding up the walkway among the library, the Wickline Center, and the Wickline building. So that was not specified in the original slides. These are the capital fund, or the enterprise fund capital projects. No change from what was originally shared with you at the last city commission meeting, or the last city commission meeting. These continue, and we will get to these when we go through department by department and get to the capital fund. Those are continued capital projects. The proposed organizational chart, which will return to you as an ordinance as required by the city charter in September. There's no real substantial changes to the organizational chart. These are the proposed staffing changes. Basically, we're at the net change is adding 2 full-timers and 0 part-timers. There's some positions that are eliminated, so it's a little more involved than just, okay, we're just adding 2 people. We're taking some positions away and adding some positions, so on and so forth. But the net change is 2 additional full-timers and no part-timers. And then again, here's the calendar, and we are on the first of 3 scheduled workshops, August 5th. If needed, we have time scheduled both tomorrow and next Monday. Then the budget gets formal consideration at the 2 public hearings in September. So, if you have any questions on that overview, otherwise we can dive into the budget that was provided to you. Ms. Allen will keep notes on a change log that we'll share with you. So what'll happen is after the budget workshops, we will present to you updated pages based upon the changes that you want to incorporate in the budget. So you will have those well in advance of the September public hearings or additional workshops as is necessary.
All right, questions for City Manager, Commissioner Smiley?
Just a comment, Mr. Martin. I hear from those in the community that want to tie the potential passage of the amendment in November to this year's budget. And I just want to, make it clear that, to those who are unsure, that this year's budget is not affected by whatever happens on the, agenda item on the constitutional amendment concerning homestead. Although we will be doing our job to prepare for that, to trim where we can, but it has no effect on this year's budget.
That's correct, and if the budget goes, or the constitutional question goes before the voters in early November, so, if it passes, we will have approximately 10 months to prepare for the next budget, which will definitely be impacted by approval of Amendment 3. But until then, it's continue our business, but be aware of that there may be changes for next year's budget.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for City Manager? All right, let's jump into the binder, and what we can do is we can just go page by page. If anybody has any questions or call-outs, by all means, just draw my attention and we'll get your questions answered. City Manager, as we go page by page, do you or Rhonda want to cover any highlights from this, or should we just hit questions only?
I've got the questions from both Mayor King and Commissioner Sherman, so those are highlighted on here, but if there's other things that strike us, we can speak up. Again, we got each of the department directors here. If we need more specific detail, I think we have access to all of our online spreadsheets and records and things like that, so, we can play it by ear.
Okay. All right, page 1. Any questions or comments?
And yeah, there will be some changes. Again, this is the first workshop. We're still waiting for final numbers from state revenues and things like that. So this is where we stand today.
Got it. All right, let's go to page 2. General fund revenues. Questions? Commissioner Cunningham?
Miscellaneous revenue, where is that? Where's it coming from? And the transfers,
Okay, what I'm looking to see which specific line.
Just so everybody knows, Commissioner Cunningham is referring to page 1.
yeah.
Oh, page 1, okay. You wanna,
That's about a quarter of the way down.
right, the 1.26.
Oh, we'll actually get into the details. Oh, let me turn this back over here. We'll get into the details of what makes up the 1.026, the 206.
What does it generally make up of?
That's what I'm gonna tell you, just 1 second.
I believe that was the golf course revenue. Yeah.
No, let me bring up my file, cause I'd hate to say something that is not correct.
Well, the miscellaneous revenue for utility fund is 23,886,000. And pier,
Right.
impact, sanitation.
Yeah, there's the different categories for each one of those. So,
Yeah. So what is miscellaneous is my question.
So what makes that number up is basically the total of miscellaneous revenues on page 4, less the other funding sources. So if you take the 2,822,000 less the 1,616,000, that relates to the 1,206,000, and that other funding source number is made up of revenues that support our expenses as far as the money coming from reserves that are gonna offset the expense. Infrastructure surtax, park improvement reserves, that kind of stuff.
I don't really know if that answered my question or not.
Go to the utility fund. and-
Well, this is for general.
Yeah.
Can we identify what everything that's miscellaneous that's part of these numbers here? So everybody can know?
Yeah, under general fund, the miscellaneous revenue, the 1.206 million is identified on page 4.
Other funding sources, is that what you're talking about?
Miscellaneous revenue, right.
Well, at the very bottom, there's other funding sources up to that's also this 1.6 million.
Correct, that was that was the golf course sale, the infrastructure surtax, and reserves that are allocated. Those make up the other funding sources.
I'd like to see that listed out of what all makes up that number too. I mean, that's probably about as transparent as you can get. So people that aren't familiar with this, and including myself, that aren't accountants or anything, you gotta spell it out.
Yep. So the other funding sources is the golf course sale, the infrastructure surtax, and the reserves that are used to help provide for the balance of budget.
And I'm just speaking for myself. I don't know if anybody else sees it the way I see it, but that's how I see it.
Well, that was one of my questions. So if you went through my list of questions, my 3 pages, that was called out by page number. And they gave me the answers that said golf course and infrastructure surtax and reserve.
So when you say we're pulling from reserves to balance the budget, how much are we taking out of reserves to balance the budget?
So I have it broken down by, actual project.
And when you say we're pulling from reserves, is this something that was earmarked and is coming back? Like, for
Correct,
instance, the cameras, that was a project that was already budgeted,
correct.
didn't get finished, so that is in reserves and we're bringing it back, but are we pulling anything out of reserves that is not already allocated or was earmarked and it's just to balance it?
No, sir.
So this is money that is coming back that was earmarked for projects?
Correct.
Okay, that's important to know.
Yes, like the infrastructure surtax or anything related to police and fire, at the end of every year, if there's any funds left over from that infrastructure surtax, that goes into that reserve, so that in case we've got like capital improvements for the fire department or the police department vehicles, that money is coming out of that reserve. So it's money I have already set aside, it's not new money.
Okay, it's just, words matter, so when I heard we're pulling it out of reserves to balance the budget, that throws a red flag. I want to make sure anybody tuning in knows exactly what we're talking about. And I've had that question. I've had citizens go, oh my God, I'm not going to pay all this money for cameras. I was like, well, you already did, because that was
Right.
multiple years ago. Yeah, it just hasn't been done yet.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah, so it's actually not an increase or something that they're being newly charged for. This was money that was approved, on hold, and now it's coming back.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's very important to know. But to Commissioner Cunningham's point, having a page breakdown sent to us, an email of what all that is would be,
Okay.
that'd be helpful.
I've got it noted.
If there's money left over in an account and it's carrying over to the next budget year, what I'm doing now, I would like to see a list like that too. Would be
We do.
helpful.
Commissioner, we do a reconciliation at the end of every year because we have to do it for audit. So what that is basically gives you like the end of year balance for like the previous year, any uses, and then a final reserve balance, which we do at year end. I can provide where we were at as of 9/30 of 25, if that would help.
We do it by quarters, right?
Not in this
Sure what's
case, we
left
do
in,
we
last
reconcile
quarter
at
that
year
we're
end
in now.
for audit.
Yeah, this was something we had a very long discussion about with Commissioner Bellheimer about a year or two ago. We were trying to match up what was budgeted, what was done, and where did the remainder of the money go. You all remember that whole exercise? And it gets murky. It's hard to do because the end of the year is in fall. We're budgeting now. One of the things I noticed, and this is a little bit off topic, I was going to bring it up, is in a previous year, I thought it was last year, we requested a column get added of year-to-date activity for the year we're in, because when you look at comping you want to know, are we budgeting an appropriate amount of money for this current year? The last data point we have is 24-25, and that's as current as city staff has, except if you look at year-to-date. So if you look at year-to-date, you can try to look at 24-25, look at year-to-date, come up with a balance. If y'all want,
Yeah, we can give you the printout for the end of July, because we haven't quite finished July yet, because we're only 5 days into August, but we can give you either the June numbers that'll demonstrate where we are year-to-date, because those have been finalized.
For the first 3 quarters, right?
Yeah. We sent, the third quarter financial report was distributed already to the city commission.
so I think that would be helpful. And, for instance, a department's budgeting $100,000 for something, but this current year that we're in, you're already over $100,000. Potentially, that's something we would need to take a look at.
Yep, we can add that for you pretty quickly.
Does that help out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was a call that I had, because that got brought up in previous years about having a year-to-date number.
And to go to your point about the capital projects at year end, we have stopped the process we stopped it a couple years ago, of carrying over projects. A project is actually closed out at the end of the year, and then it has to be rebudgeted. So we don't have that murkiness of what projects are carried over. So we actually, if a project is not going to be completed on September 30th, we actually rebudget it in the subsequent year. So it's not like, well, that's a carryover from a project that started 6, 12, 18 months ago. So it'll get re-included in the budget as
How would that work with, like, the cameras?
so that stays in the reserve.
Right.
So now we'll rebudget it. You'll see in the budget, in the capital fund, you'll see a $115,000 appropriation for the cameras.
Got it. The money just stays in reserves.
Right. It hits at year end, it'll hit reserves,
Yeah,
and then at the beginning of the next year, it'll come out of reserves and hit the budget
Right.
line item, if it's been pre-budgeted prior years.
now, would I be correct in saying a pitfall to that is if you have a project in a year, say 25, and it doesn't get done, and that money got budgeted, and then it goes into reserves, and it just, I don't know, falls off the radar.
No, it gets rebudgeted for that specific project.
It automatically rebudgeted.
We include that in the next year's budget.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we had that.
Yeah, it just,
Safety net.
the project doesn't go away and the money's just, it's not set aside for other projects. It gets rebudgeted for that specific project.
Got it, okay, because that was one of the big things that we were very concerned about, a year or two ago.
That's the report in the audit that we'll get in November, whenever we get that final audit. You'll see a journal entry essentially that has previous year reserves and current year.
Got it.
I'm not sure if I'm helping at all.
Yeah, you are.
So any money that's left over from anything goes into reserves. What if the project is done, there's still money left in that line item?
That's contributed, that goes to the reserves as well.
And then where?
However you guys want to appropriate the money. If there's a $2 million project,
Restricted or non-restricted?
it to be unrestricted. I mean, if a project is budgeted $2 million and it comes in at $1.5 million, so we got $500,000 that goes to reserves, and we'll bring it to you like, hey, are there any other projects you want to do? Here's this money that we included in the budget that we didn't need to use on that project. But in the general fund, it falls to the reserves, the unrestricted reserves.
And that wouldn't get pulled unless it passed by us. You can't pull from reserves unless commission clears it.
Unless it's under 35,000.
Nope, even if it's the reserves, we don't touch the reserves unless you guys authorize us to.
It's a good rule.
All right, other questions about page 1? That was good info, though. It would be good to see that breakdown. All right, page 2. Any questions about page 2?
You'll see some differences in the numbers between the taxes that I initially showed you and what we budget, because we budget collecting 95% of the revenues. So the budget is not based upon 100% of property taxes, but only based upon 95% of the revenues. Yeah, and it also, we have to take the CRA money out of that. So that's why it's not a straight comparison, because the CRA revenue comes out of the general fund property taxes.
And so questions I had was, I noticed that building permits was, the incoming revenue is budgeted to be far down. I thought that would essentially be, I was expecting the opposite. If we have a bunch of building going on in the newly annexed area, wouldn't incoming funds from permits be much higher, not lower?
It may, but we don't have an approved site plan yet, so who knows when they're gonna start. And, right,
Mm. What about what is already planned? Didn't we annex that too, right? It's almost built out. So it would be a year before we were to see that number,
or whenever
basically.
the developer moves forward with their site plan and
Right,
starts pulling building permits.
okay. Fire inspections, this has been a talked about item many years over. So we're budgeting, we're gonna receive, roughly 10. But then the reality is those inspections year after year have always lagged severely, severely behind, and we just don't get the inspections done. Are we like over planning for more success in what we're gonna achieve here?
Yeah, Mr. Urquhart he's taken over, the building department's taking over the fire code inspections. He's a certified building code inspector. The code enforcement officers and other building inspectors are going to be cross-trained as fire code inspectors. So, yes, they are aggressively moving forward with that.
It just seems like we always say we're gonna get a ton of fire inspections done, and we don't. Something incorrect.
If you want to come on up, Brian.
I just wanna make sure, we're budgeting accurate.
No, you can go there.
Commissioner Cooley, right now, our budget this year is obviously $12,000, and we've already realized $7,700 worth of fire expenses.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Can we expect any more by the end of the year? Are we gonna have somebody
I
in
would
place?
assume so. Glenn will probably be able to answer that.
Glenn Urquhart, Chief Building Official. We took over as far as the fire inspectors. I've already initiated us going hot and heavy in July. We've already, out of 220 businesses, we've already done 70 inspections just in a month and a half. And that's usually what's done in a year. And in the past, even the 220 wasn't completed. So we've already been actively going after that very aggressively. We will 100% complete all the inspections on all of the brick and mortar businesses as well as short-term rentals within the year. We'll probably do it within a half a year.
And our high rises.
Taking care of them too. So what we do is we do the individual inspections on the rentals, but we also do the high rises independent as a building by itself.
Right. All right, good info.
Thanks.
Well, that's good to hear. All right, any questions about page 2? Mr. Santori?
Thanks, Glenn. Yes, I noticed just a penalty line with $100 from a couple of years ago. What was that penalty tied to?
From 24-25.
Just a minute.
We could follow up with that later if that's easier. It's only $100. I just thought it was, didn't know what we were finding and should we be finding more or
My
less?
computer is super slow here.
Yeah, it's not important.
We'll get that answer though.
Come on, Santori, let's not chase $100. Yeah. But if you could just make a note of that and shoot an email out, that'd be good.
Are we really getting $20,000 a year for golf cart registration? Is that true? Yes.
What's the year to date?
Yeah, any revenue for enforcement?
We have close to.
So every day I see golf carts that don't have a sticker or it's
Yeah, we have
expired.
600 golf carts registered.
Wow. All right, questions about page 2? Page 3. Any questions or comments about page 3?
The mayor had one question about, near the bottom of intergovernmental, the Flagler County school fee. That's collected and dispersed quarterly to the school district. So that's, I think, the concurrency fees that we collect
On the permits.
on the permits, right. So you'll see a corresponding expense in a different department.
Mr. Sherman?
Yeah, I also had a question about the 4th of July fireworks that we're asking the county for $15,000 for. I know that I thought somewhere in the budget you also mentioned that we allocated, was it 45,000? Is that what we allocated
For fireworks.
for fireworks? For
Yeah,
That's what that
there was-
line
in the
is.
recreation line, there's two lines, one for the New Year's Eve fireworks and one for the 4th of July. I did reach out to Mr. Mengel from the county and asked if they had, in the past, provided funding support for Palm Coast, when Palm Coast has done the fireworks for the last several years. And yes, they provide $15,000 to Palm Coast to help fireworks support. So and he plans on putting it in their budget, the same $15,000 to give to us.
Is this going to be a united 4th of July like we've had, where we've given a little bit of something for the 4th of July events in the past? I think it was the past 2 years we've had things over at the
This is not a unified, only because in the past years, at least since I've been here, we have never provided funding.
We didn't I did when we did, correct?
We did a minimum of 1 year.
And I know we did give some, because I could have sworn we gave money that we had budgeted for fireworks to the county, and I thought that,
That hasn't been in any of the budgets since I've been here. And the goal, to be honest with you, Sherman, is to make it a unified 4th. And
Right.
somehow, but I think that's still going to be in flux, how the 4th, celebration of the 4th develops for the future going forward. So right now, we're planning on having the 4th of July fireworks this proposed fiscal year in 27, as well as 28, because that's the 100-year anniversary of the pier. After that, those are the only dates that we've staked a claim to. And
Right.
now after that, does it start
going
alternating between Palm Coast and the city, and how do we make it a truly unified effort so that, yes, when it is in Palm Coast, we contribute, and when it's here, we hope that Palm Coast would contribute toward us.
Do you feel as though this is enough? I guess that's the other question I had for you too, is $60,000 going to be enough to fund fireworks? And I was going to ask Commissioner Santori that question,
We have a contract already for the 4th of July
So you
fireworks.
think that's going to be enough to put
Yeah,
on?
it's-
Okay.
$55,000.
Because I just remember in the past when we had a dark 4th of July due to just poor administrative oversight, I thought we put aside far more, it was far more than that, right? Do you recall?
For fireworks, it was a little bit, it was about the same as
Okay.
far as just fireworks. But for the entire event, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the way it was, again, I've never been here for 4th of July fireworks. I understand that the community would do fundraising, put out a thermometer and solicit funds, and we plan on doing the same thing and about returning fireworks to the 4th of July on the pier. And we'll start to solicit donations and corporate support to supplement or to help pay the cost of the logistics of the event itself, whether it's additional police, barricades, whatever. So we plan on starting that probably within the next month or so.
And is there any thought of reaching out to our neighboring municipalities to ask for additional funding to help fund this? Because I would like to think that we did provide funding. I know you're saying we didn't, but I'm almost certain, unless I'm losing my mind, I don't know. I just would like to see more money, contributions to help pay towards this from our neighboring municipalities.
Right, and it may have done in the past, but since I've been here, none of the budgets that have been adopted in the 3 years, we have not had any money go to Palm Coast to support
Okay.
the fireworks.
Okay.
Is that data? Absolutely. I think it should be a unified 4th. But we have the contract. The New Year's Eve fireworks cost us approximately $30,000, and the 4th of July fireworks, for which we have only the contract for 2027, is approximately $55,000.
And can you make a note? And none since then.
I think we loan out our generators, don't we?
Say again?
Loan out our generators, big generators? To the airport for the fireworks?
Correct. Yeah, the fireworks are sponsored by Palm Coast, so.
What other questions you got, Commissioner Sherman? Any other questions on page 3?
I have one more.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yeah, it was already brought up. The county school fee in 2 years ago was $21,800. There was nothing in the budget year we're in now. Why is that?
Because the payments that were received off the building permits, because those are the impact fees that are paid, we put those last year to the balance sheet, so it wouldn't show up here. So what we found at the end of audit as of 9/30 was they wanted to see the revenue coming in, the cash coming in. So that's why we're budgeting it this way this year. And then we'll, in a later, in the contingency department, you'll find where the expense is. It's going to be the same thing. So we have the revenue at the school fee of $225 revenue, because we're getting that cash in, and then we'll have all of it going back out. We do not keep any of those funds.
Wouldn't that be 100% increase? It's showing zero.
Well, when your base is zero, it would give, on our Excel sheet, it would give an error, so that's why I just put 0 in there. Because the base for the division is going to be 0.
That's all I got.
Okay. None since then. Okay. Any other questions on page 3? The only other comment I had, I'm going to piggyback off Commissioner Sherman. County has given us $15,000 for the 4th of July. And other than that, we're footing the bill for it. And 4th of July is such a big event, it almost needs its own separate budget page. You're talking a huge expense in public works, a huge expense in first responders, just on and on and on. The 15 in support from the county and the 45 for fireworks is not a budget for 4th of July. and I've been saying it, like, just call me the, Debbie Downer guy, but I think we are in way over our head when it comes to trying to handle an event of this size with our space and all the concerns we have with getting that amount of people here and managing it. And I haven't heard anything about can we even execute it safely from our chief and all that. And the budget might not be the discussion for it, but has everybody budgeted this into their
Yes,
budgets?
again, what you see for the fireworks expenditure is for the fireworks themselves.
Right.
Yes, so there will be the overtime costs that are allocated in the various departments and the staff duty that time. This is what the county has provided Palm Coast for payment of the fireworks themselves. The county never provided, to the best of my knowledge, in my discussion with Mr. Mengel, the county didn't provide, they provided I believe they contributed sheriff deputies and things like that, but I think that's what they provided as kind of an in-kind cost. Yeah, we are already starting the planning for 4th of July. Correct. Right. So it's a lengthy planning process that we'll have it in place, but I've already talked with Chief Blanchett. He started having his staff meetings already about putting together how we're going to pull off the 4th of July.
Yeah, and I think at some point we'll have to have a discussion in meeting about what safety coverage can we get, in place for the event.
Again, we started discussions with public safety and law enforcement already.
I think just for taxpayers, and it's up to y'all, but to me, because of the huge expense of 4th of July, that's like $150,000-$200,000 event, and just we need to make sure we say this is what 4th of July is going to cost City of Flagler Beach. That's my opinion. I don't know if that's something you want to see or not.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but it's to this page 3. I mean, I don't look at that $15,000 line item as having anything to do with what the total cost is.
Right.
I view that's just how much the fireworks
Yeah,
is going to be.
it's getting it gets washed away in all the other budgets.
So I think that maybe as we go through tonight and tomorrow, if we can identify other budget items, expenses, and how much of that can be is to be allocated towards the fireworks or towards.
Yeah, and that's built
event.
built into each department's overtime or their standard salary lines.
Okay, so maybe we can identify that as we go.
Yeah.
On a Sunday, it's that here as well, it'll be another 3-day party.
Any questions about page 3?
So we'll have a first Friday, first Saturday, first Sunday.
And then they have Monday off.
All right, page 4. Questions or comments on page 4?
I think the mayor had questions. I think we answered them.
Yep, other funding is going to get broke out.
Correct.
And miscellaneous revenue is gonna be broke out, identified?
Yep.
Okay. But I made a note on every page I had it, so.
I had a question just about at the top line,
Sure.
the increase in budgeted interest income for the year. What causes that significant increase?
That is for our PNC bank accounts, and the way that Holly has those structured is that we sweep it every night, any surplus that we need, and that goes into a higher interest-bearing account.
Oh, okay.
Can you pull your mic a little closer? Yeah, this way the audio gets you.
Yeah, this was all part of the whole transition from Truist Bank to PNC because the interest, we were getting like pennies on millions of dollars from the one bank, and this is all part of Ms. Harlan's and Ms. Allen's efforts to increase our interest income. And this will be the first full year because we completed the transition to Truist earlier this fiscal year. So this will be the first full year that will be with PNC. Right.
Well,
Well,
year to date, as of June, is actually at 64,000. So it correlates with the 70. budgeted.
I would say great strategy by
Yeah.
you ladies. That's awesome.
Any other questions on page 4? Page 5. All right, any questions or comments on page 5?
I had questions from both, the mayor and Commissioner Sherman. Commissioner Sherman's were more, I think, directed on what are we gonna use that money for? But, to the mayor's question as to, is this an accurate assessment? Yes, staff believes that with the new, or the mobility impact fees went into play earlier this week. So we should be generating revenue on the mobility impact fees.
And you're estimating 490,000.
Correct.
And somebody, I think it was Commissioner Sherman, you asked what
Yeah,
is it gonna be used for?
Right, because I know we have specifics on impact fees, so that's why I was just kind of looking for some level of transparency there.
Yeah, we've adopted the mobility plan, so these fees can only be used to support, concepts that are described in the mobility plan itself. So we can't use them for police vehicles, we can't use it for, they have to be for expanded, due to growth, mobility-related projects.
Okay, thank you.
We don't have anything planned for these yet?
Not yet, no. I think we'll wait and see, because we've done stuff with, we've got the, TPO study on Moody Boulevard reconfiguration. We've got the, TPO for extending the boardwalk to the south to tie into the Sun Trail. Whether we look at other sidewalk projects or projects that are outlined or described in general in the mobility plan.
As far as the other ones, police, fire, library, parks, when is going to be the time that will get discussed? 'Cause I know, I mean, heck, we're overdue to do some good work in the parks. That could be expansion. Is there a time to talk about that? I guess I'm of the same mindset of Commissioner Sherman. I wanna know, okay, we got this money coming in, where exactly is it gonna go?
That can be described in the capital fund or other projects that you have in mind as well. I mean, we can get you what the balance is of those accounts. And if there's projects that you want to see staff review the cost of and spend that money on, but again, it has to be related to growth.
Right, and that's what I was asking, because I see, you know, and I get the impact fee for the mobility fee. Like, I don't have any questions on that. I think we had a really good presentation a few months back on that. But, you know, I was just trying to figure out, like, you know, I'm not trying to skip around here in this budget, but, you know, you mentioned, you know, one of the things that's why when we get to the police department, we can cover that. We've got this $80,000 there covered, you know, that we were expecting to get in impact fees. So is that something that can be utilized for that massive project that, or not, I wouldn't say massive, but large undertaking we were looking to do for security improvements, I believe that you mentioned in our police department lobby. And so I know there were some other things that have been mentioned, you know, due to growth. I don't know how, you know, again, I don't know if that's how.
It probably can't be used for the lobby because you can't directly relate that to
So
growth.
again, so that's where I guess my question would be is if we have this $80,000 this coming year, and we have 95,000, and you know, as Commissioner Corey pointed out too, for the parks, you know, I know the parks, I think we can quickly address and seek those improvements, but I'm looking for the specifics for our first responders. How do we quantify that? And you know, again, if we had an auditor come in and say, okay, you took $80,000, how did you use this, you know, money for growth purposes? And that's, you know, where I'm trying to figure out, how do you tie that and what do we have in place for that $80,000 to do that this year, or and 90,000?
Right now it falls into reserves because we don't have a project, but you could use it if we need to expand the police department.
Right.
We've had preliminary discussions with the developer of Summertown about possibly establishing a sub-precinct over there to help relocate some of the offers from our current police station, get some of the servers, get some of the staffing, and increase the capacity of the current police station to now support patrol operations while we can move, you know, non-patrol personnel, whether it's the detectives or the VOCA people, into a small facility in Summertown And that might be, because of growth, we could use the money for that.
And what's the timeline here that we need to show that? Because I just have concerns just with the political climate and seeing what's going on with some of our neighboring municipalities being questioned on a lot of things. I believe, but Daytona Beach was just up in Tallahassee having to do a lot of explaining to the legislator. So I just want to make sure that, again, I know we're being good stewards of this money, but I just want to make sure that we're using it in the amount of time. I don't, not saying like burn a hole in our pocket necessarily, but I just want to make sure that we have some sort of definitive plan and we have receipts to show like this is what we're doing and this is what our plan is and we're following those guidelines.
Yeah, we can show you, we can get you the balance of each one of the accounts and what some contemplated expenditures are for that and see how you want to move forward with those.
And what would be the timeline for that though? So to say, okay, is there a finite amount of time that we have to show that we've actually invested this money and we're just not saying, it's just sitting in this account collecting interest?
I believe that there is a statutory limit. I don't know what it is offhand, but
Okay.
we can get that for you.
All right, thank you.
It seems like really should be an upcoming workshop item.
Yeah.
This is kind of what it sounds like further into the fiscal year maybe.
Yeah, and I think my concern is too is that we're going to continue to see an increase in impact fees due to the annexation, and I just want to make sure that we have some plans in place and really kind of have something ready to go, shelf ready, whatever that might be, specifically for these three that are highlighted. And again, even though I see we got a little something for the library, and I know there's definitely some things we can do in there, of course, but just these larger ticket items were the ones that just kind of jump out to me.
Does that make sense? Is kind of what he's saying about having a consensus on what that potential uses for that money already locked and loaded? And
Yeah,
agreed
like I
on?
said, we can provide you what the balance of the accounts is and what some hypothetical projects should be used for, and then we'll take direction from you, whether you want to build a new fire station, whether you want to expand a police station, whether you want to expand the library, but again, you have to tie it to growth. We can't use it for maintenance, and you can't use it for other improvements. It's got to be tied, somehow have to directly tie the expenditure to growth reasons. Like, maybe we need to expand the library, and we can use that money because we just annexed, hypothetically, 2,000 home sites, all right? We can justify the expansion, use of these impact fees for expanding the library, for example, or a police substation over in Summertown.
Are you all okay with a potential workshop on it?
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing Commissioner Sherman asking, wanting to be sure that these funds that are being budgeted have specific uses, appropriate uses for them. And I'm hearing the city manager saying everything will get done accordingly. But to Commissioner Cooley's point, it's not planned yet. I mean, I know what the city manager is saying is that they will be appropriate expenditures, but I think what I'm hearing to answer your question is there's not right now, which goes to what Commissioner Cooley is saying, that I think, I mean, we're talking about multiple projects and there's an area of a lot of discretion on what we can hear and recommend. So I would support it, a workshop.
And it would be a different discussion than just capital projects.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can only do certain things with it.
Exactly. If you could come forward with two or three top in each department and give us the option to review.
And the other remaining challenge is, in all likelihood, the impact fees that we have are not going to cover the cost of the project. So, I mean, if you want to build a new fire station, hypothetically, we don't have $12 to $15 million in an impact fee fund. So,
Right, and that's where I guess my question is, you've got some big aspirations here, which I can appreciate, but can you then, again, you have your statutes of limitations here, but can you say, okay, we're going to take this $80,000 and put that towards a capital improvement fund or a capital project? I guess it wouldn't be a capital project.
I think according to the auditors, we have to keep it segregated in the impact fee fund.
Okay.
But it can accrue.
It can, the balance can continue to grow. There is a statute there is a spending period that you can't sit on it for 20 years, whether it's 10 years, 12 years, we'll get that figured number for you.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure, again, just, give us some options and just give us some different things, so then we really have just something that just shows we really got this locked in for something that's attainable.
All right.
Or at least start the discussion.
Do we have a consensus on workshopping this in fall-ish time frame?
I can get you all the information, then you can decide when and how to do a workshop.
Okay. That works. Questions on page 5 or comments?
I had a comment, one of the first things, I know we've been kind of going back and forth with this for several years about, adding health insurance benefits. I'm open to it for anybody that might need it. I know the board will change and things over the course of time. So I guess, there's $68,000 there allocated. My question for the city manager was, let's say only one or two of the, of us
I
up
think
here.
you jumped a page ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. I'm jumping. Sorry. No, it's
Soon.
Oh, 6? Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't have any questions for 5.
Everybody's good with 5?
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
So no, that's what I'm asking is okay, if we, if there's 2 people that opt in for this health insurance, what do we do with that remaining balance? I don't know. I'm just going to say, give you some whole numbers here. It comes out to $40,000 for 2 people to have health insurance benefits on the dice. What do you do with the other, 28,000 that you
That's
have
up to you.
left?
That's really up to you guys. I mean, I've got some ideas that we can go forward as we move forward, because there's a lot of numbers in here, whether it's salaries, whether it's healthcare insurance. Let's stick with the healthcare insurance. When Ms. Mathis and I met with our Brown & Brown insurance rep, what they quoted for us for an increase in healthcare insurance was 37%. And I said, I cannot budget 37% increase for healthcare benefits. I said, what's a realistic number? Knowing that it's not the final number, what should I include in the budget? We included a 20% increase in the budget. We have worked with the healthcare provider or our broker, Brown & Brown, and we have an alternative program that will result in a 12% increase. Only a 12% increase when compared to 20. But throughout this budget, so should we go forward with that healthcare provider, you're going to receive almost when we increased it from, because we originally budgeted $10,000 for city healthcare benefits at a 10% increase. When we increased it to 20%, that added approximately $60,000 total to the general fund budget. So now that we're only going to 12%, you'll save close to $40,000 or $50,000 just in the budget without doing anything by going to this new provider along the same ways that we're going to end up realizing built-in savings in this budget, which frees up money for you to use if you want to do other special projects. Like we budgeted $50,000 for park improvements. If you want to reallocate that to make it $100,000 for park improvements, that's going to be your discretion. And as we make these little changes going through the workshop, we will be able to tell you, okay, we're now $20,000 to the good. We're $50,000 to the good. We're $100,000 to the good. What do you want to do with that money? Do you want to put it in unrestricted reserves and hold it, or do you want to use it for other projects? But to your question is, yeah, if we budgeted for all 6 of you to have health care benefits, because we have to budget that way. Now, if some of you opt not to take it, yes, there's instant savings realized in the budget. And what we do with those savings, that's up to you how to reallocate it. One of the things that I'd like you to consider, and I spoke briefly about with Commissioner Cooley, related to the Humane Society. And there's a lot of stuff going on with the Humane Society, but the Humane Society is the only provider for us for animal care, animal sheltering, animal control. Right now, our contract with the Humane Society is $16,000. They shared their figures with me that based upon the number of animals they intake from the city of Flagler Beach, their cost is approximately $74,000. They said, we don't expect $74,000. But what if we added $10,000 or a little less than $10,000, we made our contribution to the Humane Society $25,000 instead of $16,000, and then maybe added $10,000 a year? Because Palm Coast, if you read the newspaper, they're looking at substantially cutting their contributions to the Humane Society. But they are the only service provider to Flagler Beach for animal control and Humane Society services. So that's one thing that I'd like you to consider is as we realize some of these savings, could we allocate another $10,000 to the Humane Society? And you can say, yep, good idea, or nope, we want to put it towards something else.
What page is that on?
That'd be, I believe, under general government. So we'll get there.
Well, just so I can make a note, do you have a page that I can write that on? Because that will need to be a discussion.
13.
All right, so 13.
So yeah, as we come to these savings, it's, again, this is almost your budget. If you want to spend the money on a project that you have consensus on, then please, this is the time to talk about it. So yeah, so I'm not sure how many of you, but that's the number we have to provide all 6 of you healthcare benefits. And that was actually, I think under, Ms. Mather, I think that was under the United Healthcare Plan. So that number would probably even go down lower.
I was going to say, it sounds like based off of what you're saying, it needs to just be a lower number to start with anyways, right?
What depends? I don't know how many of you.
Well, based off of what you're saying about just the switching between carriers.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Ms. Mathis has had conversations with the new provider about how to include the city commissioners.
Can we make a note of that?
Yep.
Yeah, that way it dials it in. I'm sorry, Liz, you said so. Right. So the question is, what would be that new number?
Right. Which would be based upon how many of you, Commissioner Spradley may not opt to it. He may have an alternative health care plan, or any of you, you work at Embry-Riddle, you may get benefits through work. But that's what we'd have to find out to more accurately reflect that. Are 3 of you going to need it, and we'll budget for 3? Are 2 of you going to need it, we'll budget for 2?
Makes sense.
Correct, right.
It would be a total waste of money.
Right. All right, questions about page 6 or comments?
I have some comments.
Commissioner Cunningham.
I personally don't, we have 3-year terms. You could be here 3 years and gone. I don't think anybody in here is lifers for $10,000 a year. Like a lot of lifetime government folks. It's really kind of just a part-time job. It should be, but it's not. At least it ain't for me. And most everybody up here probably already has life insurance or health and life insurance. I know I do. I'm self-insured. And the year we're in now, what is professional services for the commission? 24,000 from the budget year we're in right now. What was that for?
There was, $20,000 in that budget was for a parking management service.
Parking management service.
Yeah, that was to have a consultant come in and talk about parking, but so we haven't spent that money.
So that 24,000 is going in reserves.
Yes, it's an unrestricted reserve, 20,000.
Because 5 of it will go to the new budget.
Correct.
What were our repairs and maintenance for 2,000?
It would be for any kind of, repairs for this meeting room here. And we didn't budget any next year because we moved a majority of our repairs and maintenance over to the facilities department so that Eric can manage that.
We ran into issues before when the repairs and maintenance money was in a department. That department may or may not spend the monies on what really needed to be repaired. So we moved all the money for repairs and maintenance into the facilities department. That way they can ensure that what needs to be done actually gets done. That's why there's no repairs in the museum department. There's no repairs in any department. So that's under the control of the facilities department.
I wouldn't mind seeing that 68,000 divided 6 ways and put it towards the salary. You might get a better pool of people willing to give up their time to be a commissioner.
Your charter, you would have to do a charter amendment and let the electors vote on that to change your salary.
And I was going to bring that up. So the benefits conversation has been going on for 5 years or more, and it kind of was started by me where I was like, look, this job doesn't pay. It's a city government job. It should at least have benefits if it's not going to have pay. And we can't give ourselves raises. That's because it's prohibited by the charter. It could go to a vote. You can put it on the ballot. But to your point, Commissioner Cunningham, that comment and this was brought up exactly for that. Is if we have a more complete package, then you might end up getting more interest with folks wanting to, be in office, versus stunning pay. Commissioner Spradley.
Yeah, I was, in follow-up on that, I remember when this came up 3 or 4 years ago, as it comes up every 3 or 4 years at least. And at the time, I know one time it didn't make any headway, and the board was composed, three of the board was me, Commissioner Bellhumer, and Commissioner Mealy, all of whom have Medicare, so there was not a lot of interest. But I think the reason that it finally made its way in was not so much to compensate this board, but to make it a more attractive position to attract more candidates when spots open up. Because the low compensation is never going to change much, even if it went to the ballot, it's not going to change much. And so that was the reason. Even though there are a couple of us at least that would not benefit from having city-paid health insurance now, it's not for us, it's just to help us have a pool of candidates when slots open up. So that's the flip side of the same coin.
And a lot of the challenges the city faced with it is our previous healthcare providers were not interested in establishing because they considered you part-timers. And so that was part of the challenge, and Ms. Mathis worked diligently because you asked for this to be included at last year's budget. You said, please find a way to include it. So Ms. Mathis worked diligently with United Healthcare to create a new pool that is applicable solely to the city commissioner. So she accomplished that. You guys asked us to put it in the budget for this year, so we did. And how you want to go forward with it, that's up to you.
Well, let's make sure we actually do. What is our feeling on consensus of pursuing health insurance for this position? Mayor, I'll start at you.
I feel it's an added benefit that would give traction to having other people want to step up and serve, because our salary is nothing. We do this because we love our city. We don't do this for the money, but an added benefit, given the amount of time that we dedicate, would be very helpful, I think.
Commissioner Santori.
I agree. In this case, I wouldn't use it, which would reduce this number amount. I think that's what we're going to have. I don't think we're going to run into situations where all 6 needed at a time, and the number shown here will hopefully be less. And my only concern is the kind of the out of control rate at which healthcare tends to rise. And I didn't know if there's another alternative as far as retirement benefits go. And I'm a young person, so that's what's on my mind. But yeah, none of us up here do it for the money for sure.
Mr. Spradley.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's something that would be a useful tool to attract candidates. I think, as Commissioner Santori said, that's the big number, the 68,000 in this year's budget. It'll never be, I predict, all 6 on the board would use it. It's just that's the most possible. And this year, there's a couple of us that would not. But I think it's a good tool to help keep a solid pool of potential candidates going forward.
Mr. Sherman.
Yeah, I think I'm open to giving it a shot this year. I mean, we can always next year say, listen, it wasn't, maybe, we can give it a shot. I know we've kind of shot it down, every couple of times. Yeah, a long time. I mean, I won't be, like Commissioner Santori, I have my own insurance through my employer, my full-time employer, so, but again, I guess with that being said, if we count tea leaves, we'll probably have to maybe earmark 2, because, just in case we'll have, 2 seats will be up this year, so it's something I guess we'll just have to account for. But I'm open to it for this year, see how it works out, and again, Groundhog's Day this time next year, we can have this conversation and see if it was effective, if it's worth something keeping. Because like, as everybody else was saying, you know, otherwise it takes a charter amendment to increase wages for the board. So I'd be okay with it this year alone, and then we'll reassess next budget year.
Commissioner Cunningham.
I'm for that.
Well, I mean, I'm for it. I was one of the main proponents of it. The timing of it finally coming into effect probably isn't ideal for me, but it's still it is a a benefit that could benefit some. Now here's a question: can you budget based off of we're budgeting for a year, right? So these folks are going to be up here till at least March, minus maybe 2. But you can basically get a budget based on knowing who would take advantage of it now, just by knowing right off of polling us now. You can either do it now or in the workshop, or maybe send out an email questionnaire or something and budget based off of real data on, is this something you guys want? Because it might go from 68 down to 4,000 or something.
Correct, and we can, I'm sure Ms. Masters has a number of what the per month cost is for city commissioners, and you can prorate it, saying, okay, worst case scenario from a budget standpoint is the 2 commissioners elected in March opt for it. So if 2 of you need it now, we'll budget for 2 of you for 6 months, and then the last 6 months we'll budget for 4 of you to have it for the last 6 months. So yeah, we got the flexibility for that.
Okay. So are you all okay with doing that? Like have Liz get with us, email or whatever, we just tell her yes or no, we're going to do it?
Sure. I mean, yeah, budgeting is worst case scenario.
Right.
And if it gets moved and there's an amendment farther into the year it's general fund, so it can be unrestricted.
At least that way you can tighten it up, because it looks like right off the bat, just from hearing from everybody, it can get significantly reduced just for today's and tomorrow's discussion.
Well, we could probably cut it 50% just based upon what I'm hearing from you. So we could probably drop it down to 35,000 with the drop of hat. So there, we just added $30,000 to the good on other projects that you want to support.
Right. And the other question I have, since this got brought up, Penny, and you might know procedurally, but this is for y'all. Do y'all want to have this position be officially considered as full-time or part-time?
I honestly don't think that's your decision. I think it's all based upon federal statutes and state
what it is?
You can't decide that this is a full-time position.
Is it
Because you actually
or something?
You've got to maintain, the way that I explain is you've got to have office hours like 27 hours a week. So you need to be here 27 hours a week.
Technically, we probably should be independent contractors, but because we can get away
Right.
with part-time classification and have taxes withheld and paid on our behalf.
I was just trying to figure out how cities are deciding that, because some are considered, like counties considered full-time, and then others are considered part-time.
They may have offices in that building.
You'll
That
have
collect dust.
You'll have a collective, or you'll have a large group of folks, a captive group to ask that about next week down in Hollywood.
Nice. I like that.
Is the life and health insurance same coverage as everybody else, the rest of the city employees?
Yes.
It's the same?
Can I make one
Mayor.
suggestion? If we take the 68 and we reduce it down to the 12% increase, that will reduce it by X amount. I'm just worried if we start budgeting based on our behalves and 2 of us leave in March, we do or don't have it, then it's going to become a budgeting month-to-month nightmare if we don't have worst case.
City would budget
Okay.
for assuming the people that come in March would
Take it.
take it, right?
Yeah.
Commissioner Santori.
And would some of that be applied to open enrollment times anyway? So even if you get elected in March, no? That's interesting.
Yeah, benefits usually start at a certain point after you're hired, the open enrollment is for changes and stuff like that. All right, the only other,
Will it be paid for, deducted out of the little check we get once a month? For health insurance, if somebody gets it?
yeah, then you're gonna owe the city money.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it would come out as a regular deduction on payroll check, right?
Well, the way, excuse me,
It's not a pay-in thing, like it's a
No.
percentage? Okay,
so depending on what type of health coverage you choose, if it's over and above the standard city plan, then yes, it will come out of your
Okay.
paycheck.
got it,
Otherwise, the city will cover it all.
got it, all right, yeah, 'cause that got confused.
for the individual.
Sector.
We will cover it for the individual. If you want to add family to it, but we're going away from discussions that Ms. Mathis and I have, is we're only going to have one plan going forward. I think as it stands now, we got like the HMO, the PPO, all these different options. We're going to go to one and only one plan. So you're either in or you're out, and if it's just you, the costs are covered by the city. I mean, it's a pretty intriguing plan, and I can talk with you more about it later. But it's a new plan that, in general, there is no network. You can go to whatever dermatologist, dentist, doctor, whatever you want to go to, and basically you're paying cash is the way that the plan is set up. And there's more details to it but it's not like you're on the United Healthcare plan and you can only go to these doctors or you're considered out of network. It kind of turns that on its head. But this company that we're working with said they give us 12% increase this year. They guarantee only a 12% increase next year, and they will give us $20,000 for jumping ship to their plan. So,
So for tomorrow, we can look at least that item, a little bit of a revised number. Mr. Santori?
So what was the cause of the jump in the election expenses? Does it have to do with the charter amendment or something else?
So
Yep.
we generally, we have an election same time as the city of Bunnell and Beverly Beach. If they have candidates, last year Beverly Beach had none, and I don't think
Bunnell didn't either.
Yeah, so we had to foot that entire bill ourselves. Extra mailings, Spanish required language now, so you're paying for 2 either mail-in ballots or the draft ballots to be mailed out. Yeah, it all adds up. Poll workers, early voting required, whether we have it here or it's at the election office.
Questions on page 6? The only other question I had is, can we, and I don't want to do a big giant capital project, but can we invest some money, say potentially that comes from savings of the healthcare, into getting the stream audio to be better, whether it just be picking certain, okay. Just want to, like, because we got to do something. When you listen to our stream, it's, yeah. Just for us, is it a microphone problem? Is it the mix with the laptop problem, or?
People don't know, they think they just come up here and plug in and everything's fine, but if they unplug one thing,
Oh. Okay.
it's gonna be more secured, and it will be definitely improvement to the site.
Good. I know our folks streaming at home, I hear about it. It's not the lag they complain about. It's the audio. Yeah, it's the audio. That's always the messages I get. Commissioner Santori?
I sat in for the tech demo with Mr. Impson, and I thought the quality of the equipment was outstanding and a huge improvement. So, of course, we're waiting on costs and everything, but I have faith in Mr. Impson will figure this out.
All right. Page 7. Questions or comments?
There were two questions asked by both Mayor and Commissioner Sherman. The one was, and this will be the general one, because the Mayor asked it on nearly every department about the life and health insurance. So I think we've kind of touched on that. We budgeted a 20% increase. It should be reduced to a 12% increase. So those numbers should come down. The other two lines that were asked by Commissioner Sherman and the Mayor were the travel and training. The increase in that is for Ms. O'Flaherty to go to she's a member of there's two conferences that I get budgeted for, which is the Florida League of Cities, as well as the City Managers Association. Those are $2,000 each. And then Ms. O'Flaherty will go to the Municipal Communicators Association annual conference, and that's $1,200. So those are the three. And last year, with the transition from Catherine to Deanna, nobody attended it. So that's why that wasn't included in the current year's budget. And then the promotional activities, that's moving the annual community dinner to my department.
Well, and you bring that up, this was actually a call out I missed on the previous page, this one. So there's promotional activities under commission, there's promotional activities under city manager. I guess the question I have for everybody is do y'all want to have those be under both or one or the other? Would be my question. To me, it seems like if we're going to have a promotional activities allotment, just put it under city manager. We can give direction as needed, or he can use it. To me, it always strikes me as odd that commission would have a budgeted amount, and then the city manager has a different budgeted amount. It just seems odd to me. I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on that.
I think it looks cleaner on the books too, and like some may look at it who may not have familiarity with what we do here and say, well, what are they doing with that money? Are they using that on themselves, or you know how those things are. And maybe having it housed under the executive line might.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff is, if it's in your budget, we really don't touch it unless we go to you for your permission or things. I think a lot of this is the food. Yeah.
Would it be easier to stick it under city manager, or should we each have a separate item, or?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm not following why it's confusing. I mean, if the promotional activities for the commission has to do with commission promotional activities, then why should it be combined with city manager? To me, that makes it more confusing to all put them into one category. I don't understand the confusion of having them broken down by who is benefiting from them.
I think we have two different types of promotional activities. City managers is an event where ours is promoting the city to the outside world. So if I'm listening to Penny and her classification, advertising in magazines or what have you on behalf of the city falls under us, where his promotional is an event.
And honestly, at least a quarter of that probably should be moved to operating versus promotional. Because it's even things like water or snacks for you guys are feeding you, like for these workshops or strategic planning. That's where a lot of that's coming from.
I guess what threw me off on this is there was a year that this body was asked to make a donation, if I remember right, to the Cultural Council. And then I don't remember how it went. I don't know if we had enough money, and then we pulled it from both the city manager and it just got really weird, and that's what made me think about it. But I'm impartial to it. It just struck me as odd that there was two, when sometimes they get blended.
And I think, to Ms. Overstreet's comments, I think we can look at it, maybe it is more appropriate to move it to the operational supply line. There is the one, there's the Flagler Tourist Magazine that we have to pay for that the mayor or I typically write a one-page, we pay for that ad to go in that annual magazine. So that costs us a promotional activity. But if the other is the food and stuff like that, then yeah, maybe it's more appropriately allocated to operating supplies instead of promotional items.
Might be more understandable.
All right, questions or comments on page 7?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, sir.
And it may be, because I'm dumb probably. There's 2 salaries on here, one at 190 and one at 0, 5.64. Why is there 2 salaries and 2 FICAs, 2 retirements, 2 life and health? What's that?
Because we had, prior year actuals for project number 285, that's for hurricane. So we don't budget any hurricane salaries or anything until it actually, God forbid, happens. So that's just expenses we realized due to the last hurricane.
Yeah, when they have the 3-digit identifier at the end, they are specifically tied to a project, and we have to break those down so that we can pursue reimbursement for those costs. So project number 285, wherever you see 285, whatever hurricane project was associated with project 285, that was Milton.
So is this for one person, you?
No, this department includes myself and the executive assistant, Miss O'Flaherty. Oh, she wasn't here during, it involved myself and Miss Monroy. She would have been here during Hurricane Milton.
So the second salary is 0. Is some of that 0 going to be coming out of the 194.40? Is that how that works?
No, what will happen is if we have a major storm, we will break out, if I spend 20 hours and I can document that I spent 20 hours on it, that 20 hours would come out of that 190 and be allocated to whatever project number we give to the hurricane. That's not additional salary, that's the amount of my salary that was spent on the storm, so we can pursue reimbursement for only that portion that I spent on the storm. So hopefully that 0 line is going to stay 0 for the next year.
But it won't increase anything. It'll just be a reallocation of the 190 to a different line item.
That's why it's budgeted 0 this year.
And the life and health insurance again, this is not really what the number is. You said it's going to be 12%, not 22%?
Correct. Correct. Now, and
So the 19,000 is not an accurate number?
correct, in all likelihood it'll be lower. And I explained it to Commissioner Cooley because the mayor asked about it, why are some of these percentages for salary, workers' comp, health insurance, and FICA seemingly not related? Some are going up a lot, some are going down, some are going up a little. If you flip to whatever our contingency department is, 18, so on page 18, near the bottom, you'll see a line, salary and benefits contingency. So what we do there, that's where we budget all new potential positions. Because in the past, there was some concern raised that when we would budget salary for a new employee, and then that new employee, for whatever reason, didn't get hired, the money started to be used for other things. There was a perception that that was going on. So we created this, more or less, this department in that line item. So when you budget a new police officer, per se, that officer's salary and benefits goes on that line in the budget. Nobody can touch that line until that person is hired, and then the finance department transfers their combined salary and benefits to the salary line in the appropriate department. In this case, the police department. So that throws the relationship. We don't break out, when we hire the new employee, we don't then move it to the police department, following that example. We don't break out salary, benefits, FICA. It all lumps into the salary line. So it's an accounting thing, but it all gets attributed to the salary line only. So that's how there's the life insurance. There shouldn't be any changes, at least in the executive department, but there were questions about the HR department. Well, we hired the assistant HR director in the middle of the year, so her salary and benefits got transferred to the HR department, which increases, that made that out of proportion on those various lines. So that's why you'll see the discrepancies between the salary, the FICA, the retirement, the life insurance. Those all get added to the salary line as a new employee. Now, the years going forward, it will all be broken down on the appropriate line. But yes, to answer your question, Commissioner Cunningham, yes, the life and health insurance should substantially go down. And that is across the board for all departments. Because we budgeted, what you see in front of you is a 20% increase, and we're on the verge of having only a 12% increase.
Can we,
I assume this will get revised and we'll get a new copy, right?
Correct.
When will that be realized or committed to?
We're working on that right now. So you should have the more accurate numbers and all that in time for public hearings in September.
can we have the benefits information update for tomorrow though? So we at least know what we're looking at? Because across all departments, that's a significant amount of money.
We can
I
work
think
on
that-
revising it to the 12% and see where that
Right.
stands.
Yeah, and then also doing the revised would be to pull commissioners off that aren't gonna opt for it in the budget, you know, accordingly. All right, questions about page 7? All right, page 8.
There were two questions, same question by both the mayor and Commissioner Sherman, about the contractual services amount going up. And that's because of our expanded use of the two softwares, Civic Plus as well as Laserfiche, the actual cost. There were increase in the cost of those two programs that we use.
Comments?
Yeah, I'm assuming that this is Penny and Colleen, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and just to clarify, Commissioner Cunningham, a lot of the departments, like if you jump back to page 7, for like my salary is actually allocated across several different funds. So a part of my salary comes from the general fund, part of,
We had that in last year's budget, but I didn't see it in this one.
yeah, but you don't see it in the budget
Pulled
itself.
out of each department.
Correct. Right. So a certain percentage of my salary comes out of the sanitation fund, and a certain percentage of it comes out of the utility fund. So you can't look at just the salary line and say, well, that's the entirety of the salaries. And that's all part of when we present to you the salary list for the salaries, that breakout will be made available to all of you.
Whatever percentage that is that comes out of a different department, does that also apply to the retirement and life and health insurance and all the way across the board, whatever percentage it is?
Yes.
Okay. To me, it'd be a lot easier to understand if you could have that broke out. If it's two salaries, make it two salaries. And two retirements.
The only,
I think it's
that is
just, though, if you got a department that has a lot of people, are you wanting to see it for all departments or just certain departments?
you will be presented the salary, master salary plan
Yeah.
for your specific adoption. That's not part of this budget. But yeah, I don't think it's practical to have a separate line item in the budget for the 21 people that work in the police department.
No, I wouldn't get that deep.
But total salaries will be presented to you as part of the compensation package that you'll vote on in September.
Okay. I'm just trying to see it from Joey Bag of Donuts is trying to figure out what it is that is trying to understand it.
Mr. Santori?
Is it broken down anywhere, the amount of time or what we bring in from the public record request?
That's all Captured under miscellaneous revenues. It's not that much.
Is that something we were gonna revisit at some point? Because I thought I recall you saying that.
Well, I did. It's always been there. I started implementing it, so I'm required to respond right away when someone makes a request, and I do that, and then there's a generic statement. And if it is something that's going to cost time, so I've started writing them back and telling them, and the ones that have had charges, a few have paid and most have declined.
So you'll do all the work and then they'll decline?
I don't do any work
Okay.
until I find out if they're,
Okay, making sure.
yeah.
All right, anything on 8? Page 9.
Page 9, questions, and I think all the questions, at least regard from the mayor about salary, retirement, life and health insurance, again, goes back to the contingency line allocation. So, yeah, unless you have more questions on that, I'll move on. They were your questions, Mayor, anyway, so as long as you're satisfied, okay. And then the other question was on the contractual services. That was from the mayor as well, contractual services for HR. Yeah, that was an additional software for Civic Plus going to new type of electronic forms for people to be able to fill out electronically. So that's an expansion of the Civic Plus.
Any call-outs or questions on page 9?
I had the same questions as I did on all of them.
About the salary?
Well, salary, FICA, retirement, life and health. That's my notes.
Yeah, that goes back to the contingency when the assistant HR director was hired. That all went onto the salary line. So now when we actually budget her salary in its entirety, that's what leads to the discrepancy between the salary, the retirement, and the life and health insurance. So now that's fully funded on those appropriate lines. Where in this current year, all of her salary, retirement, and life and health insurance was on the salary line. That's why that line only goes up a little, but then we back into the retirement and life insurance and FICA. Now it's all allocated on those individual lines instead of being allocated to the salary line when she was first hired.
Mr. Santor.
I'm just curious for the contractual services, so what kind of forms will they be filling out through the Civic Plus?
I think it's the applicant for, when people apply to the city, they can fill out their application electronically. And I think, go ahead.
It would work with what we have already. It is filling out job applications online, but it is a whole module with job forms. It could be used for different departments. It could be used for special event permits. Any type of forms, we can create it, and it would work with the software we already have.
Stop it, Commissioner Cooley, from billing them.
I got one from James Sherman today.
Did you really?
Mhm.
I did too. I got one.
Sherm's trying to outdo me in the billing department. All right.
Have we approached any other insurance companies, or are we sticking with the same one?
For medical insurance?
Yeah,
Oh, no,
all of it.
we went, I can give you the packet, we went through, I think, 6 or 7 insurance companies with multiple revisions or permutations of plans that changed co-pays and deductibles. Yeah, it was a extensively thorough review done by our consultant, Brown & Brown. They reached out, they talked to United, they talked to Florida Blue, they talked to Florida Health, they talked to the one that we're talking about going to is called Sidecar. I think there were a couple other ones that we looked at as well. So yeah, our broker went out and worked on marketing us to the various companies for health insurance.
Is something that we could do, maybe we've tried it, it's been tried, to consolidate since Flagler County has, I don't know how many employees, Palm Coast has so many employees, group it all together,
We
get a kind of a group discount somehow.
We've started working on that, and there is Sometimes there's general resistance from the other communities because generally when you do that, you end up somebody wins and somebody loses, somebody gives up certain perks. But yeah, we've had that conversation among the county administrator, the Bunnell city manager, and the Palm Coast city manager as well. Like, hey, is this something that we can get to because it's something that the elected officials have expressed interest in? So we're trying to figure out how to do it, but some of them like staying with Florida Blue, and they don't want to change. They don't want to go away from Florida Blue or Florida Healthcare. And so it's like, but if Palm Coast is with United and we're with Sidecar, they just don't want to change. So,
Seems like there'd be a cost savings to get everybody to agree on which one to use.
and,
That's the best.
and I tend to agree that it's worth looking at, but trying to get all the communities to buy into this, it's somewhat difficult.
I mean, theirs will go down too, cut their costs. Why would they not want to do that? I don't know.
Because in some ways, they don't want to change providers. When I have one community that's tied into United and one community that's tied into Florida Blue, and neither one of them want to change to the other, you're not going to accomplish the savings you're setting out to do. We changed.
Even if it's better, possibly.
I'm sorry?
Even if it's better, possibly. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's, some of them are committed to their contracted provider. I mean, we change it we will be moving on to our third different provider in 3 years. Last year we changed to United, and because United, the reason we went with United from Florida Healthcare was because United offered us a $200,000 rebate for going to United. And even when we went to United, the conversation that I had with our Brown & Brown broker and Ms. Mathis is, United has played this game before. They'll give you a discount, bring you in, and then they'll jack the rates up because they think they got you on the hook. And so now we got to go out and do it all over again.
It's like car insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I have Geico and Progressive every year flip-flopping from one to the other for the same reason.
Yep.
All right, further discussion on 9. Page 10. Finance.
Questions from the mayor about overtime. Yes, we occasionally have overtime, most likely tied to year end when we're working on W-2s, but that's minimal, which is why there's only $4,000 budgeted on the line, but that's really the only overtime. Yeah, vacation coverage, things like that. And this year, actually, you'll have to stop by and say goodbye to Miss Mahoney. Miss Mahoney is retiring next week. So please stop by and give your regards to her. And then, so we're working on replacing her position, and I think there were some other questions about travel and training in other departments. And then later next year, in the budget year we're talking about, Ms. Ludiker is retiring as well. So there's going to be some transitional planning and training that's required in the finance department. Actually, yeah, that was this department right here. So it's transitional planning, and we actually just lost another person in our utility billing. So we'll have basically, in a matter of months, we'll have 3 new people in the finance department. Again, the loss of institutional knowledge and competence and insight that we're going to lose with Miss Mahoney and Miss Ludiker is irreplaceable. So they've worked for the city for 20 plus years.
All right, questions or comments on 10?
The equipment less than 5,000, I think that was additional, laptop and a scanner, which is a scheduled replacement on the rotating schedule.
So the dot 285 was hurricane, and what is the dot 300 on this one?
I think, yeah, it may have been, because the hurricanes that have been since I've been here were Idalia. No, I haven't been here that long. Idalia. I think we had Debbie, and then there was Helene, and then there was Milton. Those are the 4, and for the most part, they had minimal impact on the city.
Well, if you could just make a note of that and shoot that out in the post notes of what the dot 300 is. Page 11. Any questions or calls? We okay with paying Drew?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Looks like he's giving us a discount.
For now. All right, page 12.
Officers, a lot of questions, I think, again, related to what we talked about with the mayor about the contingency that takes care of the salary, FICA, life and health, and workers' comp. Moves us down to, our next question was on the dune walkover repairs and maintenance. Let's see, what do we have there? Yeah, our year-to-date repairs on dune walkovers is only at $900. The year-to-date for this year. And any repairs over $5,000 are considered capital improvements. So that's why we dropped it from the 7,000 to the 5,000. Operating supplies, she had a question on, and that's we were segregating operating supplies from repairs and maintenance.
Year we combined it all into repairs.
Yeah, what happened was we combined it, we had, what do we have? We had operating supplies and office supplies.
Office supplies, operating supplies, and repairs and maintenance, we all lumped it together just for easing coding.
Correct. Yeah. We're like, what is an office supply versus what's an operating supply? So we're like, let's just make one line item for that stuff. And equipment less than $10,000 or $5,000. Yeah, we're revising that one. The intent, based upon talking to Mr. Whitwam, we were going to drop that from 10,000 to 5,000.
What is it for?
Eric, do you have any?
Blowers, weed whackers, just things that aren't capital items, but replacement lawn equipment.
Got it.
Typically, yeah.
Thank you. All right, questions or calls on page 12. Page 13.
General government. I think the mayor had a question on what the heck is this department for? And this is basically, I paraphrased. And it's kind of the catch-all for services that span different departments. And the main question was, and this was from both Commissioner Sherman and the mayor, about the other current charges, and that's the shared departmental expenses as well as the city's bank fees. So they get lumped in this instead of being allocated to each department individually.
You said it was bank fees and what?
Yeah, the general purpose of the department is shared departmental expenses, but then that specific $25,000 is bank fees.
So these are just shared expenses that are not reallocated out to the appropriate department.
Correct.
It's undiscernible. Thank you.
So with the expense itself,
And this is actually, to Commissioner Cruz's point, this is where Flagler Humane Society is. If you want to look at that line item.
yeah, on the line on the other current charges, 25,000 up from zero. Are we saying that in the past year it would have been an expense similar to that, but just spread across other departments? It's not a new expense; it's just a consolidation of what historically has been incurred.
No, we've actually realized with PNC, we actually do have like a little over $2,000 a month bank fee that we have to pay. So it's hitting our actuals for this fiscal year, and we did not budget it for this fiscal year.
I see. Okay.
All right, and the other thing on this page was animal control expense. And city manager kind of brought everybody up to speed on that one. Humane Society's charging us like about 17, but they're incurring, what was it, 74,000 or something?
74,000.
True expenses.
Yeah, I've got their spreadsheet that they provided me. It works out to Yeah, let's see, we had, what they calculate through 9 months this year, 16 dogs, 30 cats, 18 others, wild animals, whatever. So 64 animal, cost of animal care, and then the cost of, animal control officers and direct costs totaled, cost, cost of care was $392 a day, which worked out to be $74,005. And we're paying 16,000 is our current contract with a annual rate of inflation escalator. And so again, given the Palm Coast and the county have talked about creating a separate animal control, I'm not sure where that's going, given the recent going on with Palm Coast. But again, these are the only people, this is the only organization that provides animal control to the city. And apparently we've been underpaying, they haven't been complaining, and they said, we don't expect you to pay $75,000, but if you could pay more. So my recommendation is take some of the money that we're going to realize from the healthcare savings and all that, and give them a boost from 16,000 to 25,000, and perhaps renegotiate the ILA that we have with them and say we'll increase that by $10,000 a year, and then we'll wait and see. Because what will happen is we'll end up going with whatever the county and Palm go. I mean, the Humane Society is not going to survive on Bunnell and Flagler Beach alone. So we're the small people in this sandbox. So if we find a way to boost our pay to help them out now, and then if somehow Palm Coast and the county create an alternative path, then we can decide, then we will follow that, because if they're not going to support the Humane Society, then the Humane Society is not going to survive the two smallest communities in the county. So my recommendation is add another 9,000, make the appropriation of the Humane Society this year $25,000.
Yeah, and here's the problem. So Palm Coast and county all of a sudden start their new little thing, right? I think it would be safe to assume that we could expect the same thing from them that we've seen with every single other thing that they've supplied. IT services, everything. It starts off at, here's this amount, and then it explodes. And then you're just stuck paying the bill. So let's say you keep Humane Society low, and then Humane Society folds, then we're just going to another single provider. Right. If we were to give, these are just my thoughts, if we were to give Humane Society, like let's say we split the cost down the middle, they say, here was your real cost, if you split it down the middle, you give them a lifeline, so at least there's competition, and we'll call it, for lack of a better term, the marketplace, and you at least allow them to maybe survive whatever it is that's going on outside of our city, or they, and they can also scale back themselves, because they've been there forever, a lot of their stuff's paid off, they could scale back and maybe be the smaller cities' animal control provider, rather than trying to do it for everybody. And then Palm Coast and County can go deal with whatever mess they're trying to do. My concern is, if they do it, we're going to get sent a bill, and it's going to be astronomical.
I like that idea of keeping Humane Society. We can't float them 100% ourselves, but if we support them and they offer us a secondary chance, it works better for us and for them as well. I like that idea.
Any other, Commissioner Santori?
Yeah, I would just like to see the data before I would give a yes to that. Just want to see what our cost is, and if they include Palm Coast and Flagler County data in there too. Just curious on it.
Yeah, I can get that data. What I have is just strictly the costs associated with Flagler Beach.
Okay.
So when I said they have 9 months total care for total cost of animal care, 64 animals. That is strictly Flagler Beach. That doesn't include Palm Coast or Flagler County. But I'm sure that they have that data, and I think I can get that from Ms. Carantino pretty simple.
Any other thoughts on amounts or what to do with this? Keep it the same? Increase it? If so, by how much?
just wait to see what our cost savings will be with that 68,000 that we have, and then kind of making a, see what we have there, and then allocate some more towards the, maybe double it, or, give another 10,000 or so.
Any other thoughts, Commissioner Spradley?
I agree with that. Bring it back tomorrow after we have the more information.
Yeah.
I'll reach out tomorrow morning.
Yeah, because right off the bat, healthcare across the board is going down. Yeah, in all departments, including commission. All right, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. Any other questions on 13? Page 14.
Police department, again, mayor's questions about life and health insurance. Again, that'll be come down substantially. Professional services, let's see what we had there. That went down because a lot of our professional services in the current year related to the accreditation effort. So there will still be some ongoing costs associated with accreditation, but those are listed elsewhere in the department. But yeah, that was the reason for that reduction. Her question was related to why did it go down so much, and that's because it was directly related to accreditation, which the initial accreditation has been completed, but there are still some ongoing costs associated with maintaining the accreditation. And then operating supplies, I think, was the same. Those were the supplies for the additional officers. And when we started this budget process, and I probably should have shared with you this earlier, once we received the initial departmental request, we had to cut approximately $500,000 out of all of the departmental requests to get to where we are on a balanced budget. And some of those were, they actually, Chief Blanchett, I think, asked for actually 2 additional officers when we started putting the budget together, and we have 1.5 officers in the budget.
1.5 additional officers.
Correct. Well, actually, we have one. The half officer is already on duty, so we're bringing him officially on the organizational chart. That was an officer who had left and came back and is currently working for us, special shifts, but on a part-time basis. Officer Kaufman.
Are we fully staffed?
I think we have one officer out right now. Right? Yeah, and we have one patrol officer, and we're in the process of interviewing for the lieutenant's position.
Yeah, that's not that this applies to now, but this has been a pain point previous years. We would get requested to bring on more officers, sometimes 2 or 3, when there's already 2 or 3 vacancies, and then the entire year would go by, and then we're still short-staffed. And it just, it just didn't make any sense to, so you feel confident that if we're at 1.5 officers, obviously one of them's coming back, but we can fill our current vacancies plus any new ones.
Yeah, I think right now we only have the one yet. Chief Blanchett and Deputy Chief Schoenbrod they've been very aggressive in their recruitment campaigns. So I think we're
Very confident.
Yep.
We have been recruiting a lot, so I am very confident that we will get fully staffed. In fact, Chief told me his goal is to be fully staffed by October 1. So I'm dressed like this because we had an interview today. So I think we're going to make it.
Yeah, that's I just want to make sure we're good to go for the year. If we're going to budget these positions, we can actually fill them.
And the challenge, Ben, when you look at some of the spreadsheets, we've had a lot of, believe it or not, we've actually had a lot of employee turnover in several departments for a variety of reasons. And so what I've encouraged the chief and deputy chief to do is keep the recruitment process going, so either we can build a list of people that are available, but if it becomes apparent that, when you look at the overtime line of $175,000, we talked about this last year, could you bring on an additional officer above what, because I think the allocation now is for 22 staff. Now, that includes some of the administrative staff with I think there's 19 and a half positions for sworn personnel. If they can find another one and hire that yet another person, which will help then reduce the overtime cost, we could theoretically use that overtime line item to fund that another officer. But that's like halfway through the year or things like that. But I said, don't close up the recruiting shop just because we're fully staffed, because there's turnover. I mean, we lost some officers this year because of other professional opportunities. And it's not just retirement, so on and so forth. So we just can't stop recruiting officers. And we've been fortunate in a similar fashion with the fire department, was we actually have, I believe we have some backlogged. We now have a pool of possible firefighters to draw upon should any vacancies occur.
All right, questions about page 14? The question I got is about overtime. And I get why you have it there, but if you go back and look at, say the last like 3-4 years of budgets, overtime, the overtime line continues to grow. And so the question is, if we are in a better staffing position now than we ever have been, why are we budgeting more overtime than we have ever spent?
And some of that is longevity officers, they're entitled to more vacation, and by the longevity, the officers that now have to cover those officers on vacation, their rates have increased. The police have been getting the current contract, which we're in the last year of the contract, it's a 5% pay raise. So the officers that have been here for 10, 12, 15 years, their pay goes up when the people earn more overtime the longer you're here, and then you have to pay the officers that cover those shifts more money because their base wages are up. So that's why it goes up.
Commissioner Cooley, we've spent $181,000 year-to-date as of the end of July on overtime in the police department.
In this year. Is that because of the staffing issues?
Correct.
Right. Because you have, in overtime, you have an officer and a vehicle there. So, I guess that's kind of my conundrum is...
But you're never going to do away with the overtime, because we will...
Yeah.
Officers have to go on vacation, and then the only way you can cover them is by challenging officers to take overtime.
But if you say you hired another half officer, not like a part-timer or somebody halfway through the year, is it possible is it a better value to do that, to get an additional body, than to spend almost $200K in overtime?
I'll have to, they're the ones that do the schedule and the operation, so I defer to their insight as to how that's handled.
It's all on you.
So, yes and no. Yes, we can get an extra officer. However, with the overtime that comes with that, there's always, like the city manager said, there's always going to be overtime. And people want off nowadays. Back when I started, everybody wanted to work as much as they can. Well, now it's not that way. People want their home life. So I think no matter where we're at with staffing, there's always going to be people taking vacations, training, different schools.
4th of July fireworks.
Yeah, I
We
guess
have
like,
one on light duty who's been on light duty for months.
what if you spend $100K on another officer and then only $75,000 on overtime? Then you have another body.
I don't know if one person would make up that difference with all the other time off.
Something to look at.
Is that overtime include the county or summer overtime? Not for the county. So that's another two deputies that we hire through the summertime for Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So so we're paying in coverage under professional services line $100,000 to the county. I mean, you got enough for an officer. At least that's the thing is do you want to pay somebody else or do you want to pay your own? I guess is where I'm at. And I don't know the answer. I know we've always run really high overtime. We've always paid the county for a lot of hours. And in my mind, I'm just like, let's just bring a body on and cut down on that.
But I don't think one body will do that.
You might have to hire 2 or 3 part-time people to counterbalance the leaves requested.
Cause you got you got 275,000 here. Almost $300,000. Yeah. I guess I don't know. It might be worth having a discussion about, seeing if there's anything there.
I mean, from what I'm hearing, it sounds to me, and with the mayor's comment too, it sounds to me that what we're looking at is, for example, events that require 2 or 3 officers for a short period of time, and really apples and oranges if you're talking about instead having a single officer, it wouldn't be able to cover. In fact, in some ways, you'd be in a worse situation because you'd have to still rely on the county.
And again, I indicated we're moving into this is the last year of the contract. A growing concern is the pension costs associated with the police department. I mean, we're up to $750,000 for the pension costs, and how that works into the contract negotiations or what the pension board says, but that is becoming a significant cost associated with the police department. Now, is it a strong recruiting tool? Absolutely. But at the same time, that cost is growing. I think if you go back, I think Commissioner Santori and I looked at the audit. The officers contribute approximately $150,000 to the pension fund. The city contributes close to $550,000 to that pension fund on an annual basis. So whether that becomes part of the contract negotiations as to do we try to more balance that, but that is a growing concern of the cost of the pension. Something that you should at least look at or pay attention to as we move into the contract negotiations. We'll probably start negotiations I think it goes through September 30th of next year. So we'll probably start negotiations early in 2027.
All right, Commissioner Santori.
And do we approve that, or is there a separate board that approves that?
No, you approve, we'll work on negotiating with their party and our party, and Mr. Smith is part of that as well, and then that contract comes to you. But in some ways, you have the ability to set the parameters that we then take to the bargaining table. And how entrenched you want to be on those parameters, that's up to you. You give us your orders like, hey, no, we're not going to authorize 8% raises, and I'm exaggerating for the sake of discussion. Then, when the police department asks for 10% raises, like, no, we can't do that. So you can set the parameters, and we'll share with you from a management side, which is the deputy chief, the chief, and myself. We'll share with you, hey, here's some things we want to incorporate into the new contract, and that's why it's called negotiating and collective bargaining. Give a little, take a little.
Any other questions? All right, next page. Thank you. Any questions on page 15? Or callouts? All right, page 16, Fire Department.
Fire Department, the questions from the mayor were the overtime, retirement, equipment less than 5,000, and vehicles, repairs, and maintenance. The easiest one to address is the vehicles and repairs and maintenance. That is not, we are not adding any new vehicles to the fire department. That is for maintenance of the existing fleet. Equipment less than 5,000, I actually have a note to review that with interim chief Cordier. Find out exactly what they were looking for the $5,000. It may be miscellaneous equipment, as Mr. Whitwam explained for the facilities department. The retire, let's see. Yeah, the fire department, we did not. They're actually, if you look at the audit, their retirement fund is actually overfunded by about 115%. So we didn't. I don't think we put anything. Did we put anything in?
We didn't budget anything this fiscal year. projected for next year.
Okay.
Because we've used up all that overfunding.
Yeah. So we lowered our contribution in the current fiscal year because we had the overfunding, and so now we're back to the traditional funding. But the fire department pension fund is somewhat more equally balanced between what their contribution is as well as the city contribution is. And that information's available in the audit that was just completed.
Retirement, you said,
Correct.
going up 255%.
Correct. Because we were overfunded before, so we didn't contribute the full amount in the current fiscal year. So now we're going back to the necessary amount to maintain the pension fund. So we use the savings this year. We need to make up the full amount in the next fiscal year.
Is it typical to have big swings like that?
I'm sorry?
Occasionally we do.
Yeah, and some of it depends on the market, on how the pension funds do with their return on their investments. But in all honesty,
It makes money every year.
Correct.
I'm on that board. It makes money every time.
Right. The pension funds for the city are well-funded, at least police and fire-wise. For a long time, there was what I would consider to be a red herring when you talked about underfunded or unfunded pension liability. That only comes into play if everybody retires on the exact same day, which is never really going to happen. But no, I think the police pension fund was funded at 90% plus, and I think the fire department was funded at about 115%. So our pension funds for police and fire are in very good financial condition.
I'm gonna say it again, 175,000 overtime. If you were to do that in the private sector, they would say you're not staffed properly. And I know sometimes folks get, gun shy about bringing on additional bodies, but if having additional staff cuts down on your overtime and you come out even or ahead, you're better off.
And we've actually talked with fire department personnel about, because again, there's actually some concern that when we're running 3-person crews, a lieutenant, a driver, engineer, and a firefighter, I think we should add a 4th person to the crews, because then, to your point, then you can have somebody take vacation, or do we create a new D shift? And again, I haven't had lengthy discussion. So do you create a D shift that becomes a swing shift, so when the lieutenant from B shift takes a vacation day, you bring the guy or woman off the bench to fill in that slot. But again, you're almost hiring a brand new crew that's going to be a bunch of pinch hitters.
Yeah, and you just, you have enough there for a couple people. And I would really study that. Now, you're not going to eliminate overtime. It's for the same exact reasons of you got hurricanes, events, and all that stuff. I get that. But that amount, would warrant a swing shift to fill in for exactly that.
Well, and what has contributed to some of the past high overtime was the fire department their overtime was a little over double time outside of the standard of time and a half. And I don't know when that started, but that's been part of our ongoing discussions as we've adjusted pay under the current circumstances in the fire department. No, we're going to go back to the traditional time and a half.
Yeah.
But they have a recognized union, but we don't have a collective bargaining agreement with the fire department. So that's probably going to be a process that starts this fiscal year as well.
Yeah, and I don't have any way to armchair quarterback the overtime. I would just say I would study that, and I would look at bodies, how the overtime was spent, and any impact you can have on that. Because overtime is not paying people to be efficient, and you're not pushing the department ahead by spending that money. That's patchwork, and if you can get additional staff and reduce overtime, you're gonna come out a lot further ahead, just for what it's worth. Any other questions on 16? And hydrants was 0 because it went under a different department, right?
Yes, that's correct. Utility maintenance.
Got it. All right, page 17, planning and zoning.
Overtime, the question from the mayor, and yes, what happens is with that, whether it's the magistrate hearings, that's been, or, especially in this case, there were, a lot of the activities related to Veranda Bay annexation. So there was a lot of mailings and work that had to be done that had strict deadlines. So that's what contributes to that, line item. Again, the workers' comp, the big changes here are related to moving the code enforcement officers to the building department, building code. So that's why you have a lot of reductions in, actually the overtime, the workers' comp, vehicle repairs and maintenance, and the fuel. Those, the two code enforcement officers are being transferred to the building code department.
Okay, questions or comments on page 17?
The professional services, did you cover that, why that reduction to 0 from 140,000?
Yeah. Oh, that was the mobility study. So that was completed.
So you're moving Gary and John to building department, so you're moving 2 full salaries out of planning and zoning? It's only going down 25,000 or whatever, 12%? Is that right?
Yeah, that's what that's showing. We can take a look at that.
The GIS.
Oh, that's right. We did add GIS personnel. So actually, there's only one net change.
Was that covered under that staffing slide that you had where you showed it? Okay.
No.
We need to get a copy of that slide too.
Yeah.
All those slides, really.
Yeah, I'll plan on giving you this presentation. I'm not sure, because that was in this year's budget, so that chart only showed new changes for the budget we're talking about right now.
Right.
The GIS person was included in the budget year we're in, so that position would not be reflected on that chart.
Right. But if it's presented, we need to have a copy of it.
Yeah.
Those slides that were up there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because the pluses and minuses that you covered on it, it'd just be good to
Yeah,
have.
I'll email that to you tomorrow morning. I mean, the whole presentation I'll email to you.
Back to the GIS, that would have been through contingencies, so everything would have hit the salary line item versus broken down for taxes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So Commissioner Sprowley asked about professional services. The contractual services, obviously that's been a big change since 24-25. You got talking about.
Those are the software platforms, Gridix, which is now our online zoning platform, and what's the other? You gotta turn on your GIS packages.
Yeah, we have 2 Esri apps, Business Analyst Online and ArcGIS Pro.
So those will be every year like that then?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and we did that because the county raised the rates dramatically high on us. So we went with getting our own software.
You'll see some of those results on mapping and some of the stuff that we haven't had in the city ever with what we're working on with GIS. It's going to be exciting.
That's high for a computer program. I don't know anything about it, but to me that seems crazy.
Software packages are expensive.
Yeah. You know anything about that stuff, Mr. Cunningham? This $37,000 line for software subscriptions.
I think Bill's on that too, isn't he?
Yeah, Bill can use it. The whole the whole department can use it.
Does that require you to pay for each individual seat in the departments?
Some do. some licenses do. But it's for our mapping, it's for utilities, it's for all our assets, and right now we're working on our boundaries. In fact, Palm Coast asked us for our service delivery boundary that they don't have, so. On September 18th, we have the planning department, what's that called on September 18th?
The quarterly meeting, or?
Yeah. Well, I'm scheduled then. So we're planning to share some of the results from GIS and do business analysts.
A lot of the software companies that went to now where you could purchase the license, they don't allow that. Now you have a subscription.
Yeah, I mean, again, apples and oranges, but just like from a law firm, our subscription for software for legal management, I'm paying $25,000 a year.
Man, we're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
That 37 pays for 3 of us. All right, questions about page 17. It might be a better value. Yeah. All right, page 18.
The contingency reserves we spoke about, the second line is the Flagler County school fee, so this is the expenditure side of the $225,000 that was on the revenue side. So this will be dispersed quarterly to the school district. And then the other question for the mayor was the Dune Walkover Reserve. Yes, we've established the policy of $150,000 a year. This reduction of $100,000 was part of my finding $500,000 to cut, because right now I think our year-to-date, or what our current balances of the Dune Reserve, yeah, we're almost $400,000 in the reserve, and this reserve was established to pay for the Dune walkovers if they are damaged or destroyed during a storm. So we have roughly $400,000. We'll be over $400,000 even with this reduced appropriation to the Dune walkover reserve. But that's all that's not used for Dune minor repairs, like the repairs that were done on a walkover that got hit recently. That comes out of the other department. This reserve is strictly for damage due to storms.
Mr. Sherman.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of beaches, and I know, I don't know if any of you guys listened in on the county's meeting the other day where they approved their reach, and it keeps on being brought up about a beach maintenance plan, and so I just was wondering, just thinking out loud here, do we need to start figuring out some sort of contingency fund for that and start putting some monies aside for that now?
I reached out to the Army Corps of Engineers after the joint meeting, and they indicated that the true partner with the Corps of Engineers is the county. The county is responsible, according to the Corps, and their newer coastal engineer came from the Corps, and I was told this is the model that he operates under, is that, yes, the county handles those expenses.
Do we need to get a legal opinion on that? I don't know. It just seems a lot every time this comes up. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I'm just, thinking, I just want to be ready to go. If we have a stamp of approval, but then also if there is something that, we're just not sucker punched, right? And we're like, now we do need to come up with this money, or there's some sort of not, I don't know if we need to get something more clearly written and have maybe Drew review it or somebody else. I don't get too far off the subject, but I'm also just...
No, we can have, again, my conversations going back a year ago when the renourishment project was finished, the Corps indicated our maintenance responsibilities under the ILA, which I think we all agree the ILA needs to be revisited, were related to the sand fence, the escarpments, and the signage, and east signage. And the Corps, he sent to me, I'll forward you the email, that says those are the non-federal sponsor responsibilities. Now, if the county wants to ask us for money, that's on us. But their contract with the Corps as the federal sponsor From the information that the Corps provided to me, those are the responsibility of the county.
So I guess that's my follow-on question. Do we want to take any of these cost savings we have? You know, I know we mentioned the Humane Society, we mentioned a few of these other things. Do we want to take some cost savings from this and just have it there in the event they come at us with something, or we begin to have, you know, we're preparing for this because, you know, the beach just seems like to be a topic that keeps on getting, I don't know, I would like to see monies put aside. I don't know what everybody else thinks of that.
Well, they were talking about doing an ILA for Reach too. It got bounced around. There probably needs to be one.
They made a comment at the meeting that Mr. Moylan was working on a revised ILA, which I have not received anything from Mr. Moylan. Or the county. I don't want to lay it all on Mr. Moylan because I'm not sure how they're tasking, but at the meeting, they said Mr. Moylan was working on a revised ILA.
I don't see us. Are you talking about for Reach too, or for the core stuff?
Just in general, just have a beach, maybe just have like a line item for the beach, and then just say, okay, we're gonna start putting a little something here away, and then whether that need to be used for a Reach or whether it be some sort, I'm gonna throw my quotations here, some sort of beach management plan that we're one of 2 counties in the whole state that doesn't have it, right? Is that right?
I would caution about putting something away ahead of time, because if we put something away, guess who wants it?
They want it, yeah.
They're like, hey, we noticed you put this away for us.
That's what I was going to say. Although I agree in theory,
Yeah.
we want to protect our beaches, but I'm not sure I would segregate anything until we have an ILA and we're in agreement with whatever the numbers are.
So do you guys want to even just have something that says miscellaneous? You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be that, if as long as it, but.
Well, remember, we already agreed to that 180,000 for what was going to be part of that overall umbrella half-cent sales tax plan. Remember, there was going to be like the flat fee that...
The flat fee was about $160 per parcel.
Right, and that came to around like 180,000 or something.
I think it actually came to like 700,000.
Is that what it was? Okay. Right. I mean, we agreed to that, to the parcel thing, and then we were going to...
But we were going to move forward with it, and then the train came off the track.
Yeah, but...
now, not in Flagler Beach.
We have kind of, I mean, our own consensuses in place, I think, to put that amount aside for the beach.
Okay.
But, they can't figure out if they're coming or going.
Right.
And, that's just to tie it back to that whole Humane Society discussion. I mean, that's why it's probably a vested interest of us to at least do our part to try to keep Humane Society rolling. If anything, they would be functioning as our animal control, because this is what you get sometimes when you deal with the other body. What other questions we got on page 18?
Well, I just wanted to chime in. I agree with Commissioner Sherman. I feel like if we're going to be going to the table with the county, we have to have something to come to the table with. Otherwise, we're there with nothing in hand. Even if it's, and I agree, but if we have something to at least come to the table with, it's like, here, this is what we're willing to do.
I think it's a matter of showing we're serious when we have a gun in the fight, is my argument. Maybe that's what you're kind of thinking too. Again, I'm not saying that, they're going to come at us and say, well, you guys put this, and that's what I was going to say. Maybe we just have like a miscellaneous line there, that miscellaneous is what we really know it's there for, but, again, I just would like to take maybe a bit of a more proactive approach to it. And again, it doesn't have to be if we just have some cost savings. It's just something to consider.
But I think that, again, that's at your discretion if you want us to set aside a line like that. But I think, going back to what Commissioner Cooley said, is I think the consensus was a year ago that, we agreed to the half-cent sales tax, and we agreed to the $160, $180 some dollars per parcel, which equates to roughly $700,000 a year. So
I think we're I'm sensitive and hear everything that's being said, but I also am concerned about bidding against ourselves. We've agreed with what the county proposed in a very nice presentation a year and a half ago about the half-cent sales tax. We made the proposal of $160 a head. The create a $700,000 fund. And there's still that issue of the interpretation of the local portion of the obligation to pay. And I think, the county has sent signals that that means us. And it's not what it means, but, my concern is that if we put money on the table in addition to what we've already proposed to do, then that may weaken our position. And I mean that with all respect to, Commissioner Santori and Sherman, because what they have are good ideas. It's just I'm concerned that money on the table may, weaken our position. But I don't know. I'd like the county to begin to act. I know that in hearing what they say without fail, especially, Commissioners Hanson, Dance, that they cannot let the beach suffer, and they're not going to let it suffer. And so I want to hear them follow through with their commitment. So anyway, it's an item that obviously is worthy of a lot of discussion.
Aren't we responsible for 3 escarpments and
That's
on the beach?
Escarpments, the signs, and the fence.
Okay.
that's our maintenance obligation.
Correct.
What's our process for escarpments?
Generally, what the Corps says is they have, when the Turtle Patrol is out, the Turtle Patrol is reporting escarpments, and that's who they rely upon, and that's who ends up reporting the escarpments. If the escarpments are only considered if they are in, because there's also tilling was part of the maintenance thing, but what the Corps indicated to me was the tilling is necessary if it would impede turtles nesting, and according to my recent conversations with Turtle Patrol, I think we have close to 400 nests this year, so obviously tilling wasn't necessary because the nests weren't being impeded. And the
You're
indication
not going to do anything during nesting season anyway. That's,
No. The tilling is done before nesting season. They generally go out and they'll survey the sand to determine if it's too compacted that would prevent turtles. So that usually, the tilling survey, the need to till survey is usually done in March or April before turtle season starts in May. And there was no need for that this year. They surveyed it and they said the sands were not compacted enough.
so if we are fixing the escarpments, how are we doing that? What machine are we using? What's the process?
We would, if there were need for that escarpments, and we've talked about this with Corps, that you contract somebody with a small vehicle with the blade and you knock the escarpments down. There's been no need for that so far.
Any other questions on 18?
Dune Walkover Reserve. I think it was last meeting or meeting before last. I talked about the last walkover to the south. I don't know what happened, but it's worse now than it was before. I went down there this week. Somebody's going to get hurt. I mean, it's a drop off. It needs another step.
I think, is that the one that we looked at, Penny, or that we had?
Should be closed if it's that much.
It ain't closed.
We went out there and expanded, it built up, and we did reach out to EPA. We cannot extend any further east. We cannot add another. We have to rebuild the dune walkover to add another angle to get down lower.
Is it closed?
But I will go back and check it. This was the last time I was there. I sent pictures to my chain of command. Looked like we had a window that brought in some sand, but I will go and check it again tomorrow.
It's open. I was there yesterday.
And the question I had about dune walkovers is, during the last major storm, what did we spend in expenses? So we have, say, 300 some odd thousand sitting right now, but to base that off previous storms, what is like an average spend of like getting them all fixed?
That depends if you need a full replacement with pilings replaced or if you're just replacing decking and stringers. A full replacement, $70,000. That was the going cost. But then again, at that time, that was coming out of COVID when lumber prices were high. I'm not aware if they're still high or if they've come down. At that point, we couldn't require them to keep their bid good for 30 days. We negotiated down to where once someone was selected and knew we were ready to issue a notice to proceed, at that point they would come back and give us a bid just on the material. Their labor was already agreed upon, but the material, because the prices were fluctuating so rapidly. I don't know what they are now.
I believe we have a standard template that's been approved for the various types of walkovers, so we don't have to worry about design costs
We
anymore.
do, and when the designs we had done before, we had them made where they could be reused. We are the owner of those, and I have them for each one of the ones that were replaced. So we have two basic forms. We have the one that angles, that goes along the shore, for if it was so steep, it would have had to reach out too far on the beach, and the bottom would be tore up all the time just from wave action. So we have the two different plans, and the handicap ADA, technically three.
So it sounds like we're not at a point where we should cut $100,000 off that reserve because we don't have that much.
The problem is that when we got reimbursed through FEMA, on the dune walkovers, the requirement on that is to maintain insurance going forward. We cannot get insurance anymore. No one will write us. So we don't know how that will be approached by FEMA, as if it may be seen as a hardship that we've tried, we can't get insurance. That's an unknown. We don't know until we get there.
They canceled us, after the last ones we just had? Is that, because I remember,
It was.
yeah,
22, 23?
that's right, because I remember
Yeah.
everyone was, after every meeting, you'd always bring it up, okay.
And the cost can be reallocated to this line item through savings realized elsewhere in the budget.
I think
Well,
that,
and that's my point is
Yeah.
like, where are we at as a body? Are you all okay with
I'm all
50
for it.
being put aside for the dune walkovers, or does it need to be the original amount?
I would like more information. If we can get an estimate of how much an average, what it would cost to fix one, and I'd like to know what our inventory is, how many beach ramps we have, and then maybe we can talk about how much we want aside to just say we lose 10. Do we want to make sure we have enough to bring back 8?
Lumber has come down, price of lumber.
Sounds like we only got enough money in the reserve though for 6 or 7 walkovers.
Mhm.
Facilities director is saying right now for the one that was just hit by the car, and that was only the top of it. It didn't go down into the pilings. That was 20,000 for that, and that didn't require equipment going down the beach, driving piles. Those the revetment, all that sand covered up on the south end, those rocks are still down there, and if they have to drive piles, that was another big expense in there.
I'd like to see more money, let's see what we.
Oh, 150?
Yeah, I'd like to see it if we can get some more cost savings in the budget and, cut where we need to cut or wherever to fund that. I do think it's important we continue to grow that fund.
Other thoughts, Mayor?
Well, given we're self-insured, basically, I think we need to be more proactive in protecting what we own. And we came up with that 150, yes, based on high lumber cost. And fortunately, I'm hoping, knock on wood, that we don't need it, but I'd rather have it there in case we do. I'd hate to see walkover shut down for years.
Mr. Sproutley?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Sherman and the mayor. Probably not a good year to cut on that item.
Okay, so we got a consensus on that.
We'll find money as we're saving money, whether it's on the insurance benefits and so on and so forth, that we will look to restore that to the full $150,000.
I'll dedicate my insurance fund to.
Very generous. Any other questions or comments on 18? Only other comment I had was the reserve for fire truck. I've said this many years in a row. I think the replacement schedule for the fire trucks is overly aggressive, and I think, we used to be at 75, and then it increased, and, the replacement schedule increased. I think it's too much. I'm just of that opinion. I think it needs to be brought down to how it was. I know trucks have gotten more expensive, but, you know, again, I think that we, as far as fleet management, and I will call this out in the fire department, you know, they, in the past, have been overly aggressive. And, this goes back to chiefs. So if I was to, and I don't know if you've been here long enough to even have an opinion on it or not, but, I am of the opinion that I think 75 is really a better number, and you dial back the overly aggressive replacement of the trucks. City manager, anybody up here?
We have an impact fee for that this year.
What?
We have an impact fee for that this year.
Yeah.
Well, if it's,
Yeah,
I guess technically, yeah.
I've got a question, maybe the chief can answer. What is the useful life of a fire truck? How many years do they
Yeah, come up, chief.
projected to last, and where have we fit within that?
But Nate Cordier, interim fire chief. Typically, the useful service life for the trucks can vary. For a pumper or an engine, it's typically 12 to 15 years frontline, followed by 5 years in reserve status. Ladder truck's going to be typically 10 years in frontline status, 5 years in reserve. After that, you're kind of at your useful life. There's been increase in safety standards. There's increase in equipment, and also here being with the salt air, that really does a number on the trucks.
If you go to the, if you flip the, it's actually on page 47, the capital fund draft, we're showing a fire truck replacement in the 29-30 budget year for approximately $2 million.
You've also got to account for increased lead times too. Currently, the production for a fire engine is going to be in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 years for it to get built after you place the order.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Industry-wide.
I just think it's too aggressive. That's just me, though. I think, you know, I think we just need to be mindful of, you know, our wants. We're not Jacksonville. But that's up to y'all. I mean, that's just one person's opinion.
What's our current balance in our fire truck reserve at the moment? I know, what was it, when did we buy the last one? Was it 23 or 24?
We just got a pumper.
Right.
That's newest apparatus you have is 2020 model year.
Okay. Do you know what, I know we pulled a couple
I
years
don't
ago
think
to.
we got it 20, did we? Did we? Yeah.
20, right.
If it's tagged for 20, it was delivered in 20 sometime.
So we
Right.
received the new engine when Chief Pace was here.
Right, I
and
remember,
we
yeah.
basically depleted our reserve period. The following budget year, we did not budget any
Okay.
reserve whatsoever.
Okay.
We did budget this year and then the previous year. So with this year's budget of 100,000, our reserve at the end of this year will be approximately $200,000. Now, we can use infrastructure surtax to help fund that, but with what we have in the reserve, that would deplete our infrastructure surtax.
It's up to y'all. Any thoughts? Leave it alone, stick with it, change it?
I'd like to see it left alone for now.
Yeah, I mean,
I think if we're looking at only 200 in reserves, and we're talking 20, 30, 132, we're going to have to make a replacement at 2.1 million plus. Yikes.
yeah,
It's going to be kicked down the road, and I think we should put a little towards it.
I agree. I mean, you know, I can hear the commission of 2032 saying, what were those guys thinking? And I'm not an expert on this. You know, I hear the city manager, I hear the interim fire chief, you know, and so I'll lay it in your hands. But Again, it seems like one of those things that, when I heard what I just heard, where the reserve is, down at 200,000, that's a little scary to me.
All right. Questions, comments on 18? All right. Page 19.
Questions from the mayor were about telecommunications. That has to do with increased requirements for cybersecurity, software fees, things like that. Repairs and maintenance was general hardware maintenance, and then equipment less than $5,000 was new equipment for new staff, because we are adding one staff person to the IT department because we're transitioning away from the county. You approved the management services agreement, so we're ramping up. We're doubling the size of our IT department from 1 to 2.
Well, I guess that's the confusing part for me. So we're increasing staff, then we have the big increase also in contractual services, though. And that, trying to figure out.
So that's moving from an ILA that was under professional services to contractual services, since this is a third-party contractor now.
But we're budgeting $300,000, right, for a company to do what?
That's not all that $300,000. That's also licenses, other equipment, or not equipment, but contractual services under there. There are, I think, 8 line items under that.
Yeah, it would be good to know what that is. Because I was trying to figure out, all right, we have you, then we're adding a body, but then we're also adding, basically almost like another $180,000 on top of the people of just stuff too. And I get this is where everything's going, but I was expecting if we're going to add a person, then you would see professional services or contractual services go down because it's coming in-house, right?
No, it's not entirely. So that line is made up of the managed IT service that we recently went out for proposals. Is approximately $135,000. Then we have software licenses and cybersecurity licenses in the amount of, one is $35,000, one is a little over $1,000, one's a little over $10,000, one's a little over $16,000, another at $5,000, another at $5,000. Yeah. So,
right, but the 135 is that service to manage.
So that's IT. Until I have a staff that can provide 24-hour services, we would have to contract out to provide those services for police and fire. If something happens in the middle of the night, I can't have 2 people on 24/7 notice for that.
basically, that 135 is providing the services that the county wanted to charge us $300,000 for.
Right.
And additional cybersecurity services on top of
So
it.
then, what do we? Yeah, those were what they were just talking about. But I guess the question is, what's the second person for then?
So that's for on-site repairs and maintenance. Because the 24-hour service that we're providing is not always available for on-site. So if someone has to go over to the water plant, there's an outage there. Someone has to go over to PD for an outage there. There's 2 people on staff that can handle that. This is all part of a 5-year plan to bring all services in-house.
Right. It just seems like there's overlap or something. Maybe I'm just looking at it weird.
So is your goal essentially then to move further away from that $135,000? So eventually
Absolutely.
your plan would be to have everything in-house and, kind of have a 24-hour level of service then within the city. So if
a 24-hour level of service and also software services so we can cut down on some of these things we're paying annual subscriptions for.
Dan Troy, you're the IT guy. What do you make of this?
No, I am not the IT guy. I just like IT. So what kind of services are you looking to reduce? What kind of subscriptions in particular you think will make the biggest hit?
Anything, GIS related, things like that, anything that we're paying for, large cloud service annual subscriptions, we could write that in-house instead of doing it externally. All right, questions or comments on 19? Yeah, the only other question I had was about the equipment less than 5K. If you could just tell us what that is. Is that replacement computers or something, or?
No, that's
okay.
in part the new equipment for the new employee.
Okay. That will go back down in continuing years. It's not going down. That's true. I can't get a one-day quote for a laptop these days. Yeah. All right. Anything for 19? We're at our 8:30 stop. How are y'all feeling?
Well, what I would suggest, even though it is extended beyond 8:30, I think we only have a few more departments in the general fund, which I think is 4 pages before we get to the capital fund. So we got streets, library, museum, and recreation.
We do 4 pages. That's going to put us at 9.
I mean, we got to come back tomorrow anyway. But
what do y'all want to do? We'll pick it up tomorrow. Good. All right, let's hear what our consensus is. I got 2 tomorrows over here. What do I have over here? Easygoing is not a date. You're at tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
All right, we're at tomorrow.
is that it will take but a few minutes to do this, fine, we'll do it tomorrow.
All right.
All right, we'll get some updated information tomorrow, based upon some of the questions that we've made notes on. So we'll get those to you tomorrow. We'll pick up on page 20 tomorrow.
All right, look for motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, staff.